A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
One of the greatest pleasures we find in this business of keeping you in suspense is the discovery of new talent and of unusual story twists. In what you're about to hear, we think we have combined both. The twist? You'll never guess it, no matter how familiar you are with that mystical literary device, the ventriloquist dummy. And the new talent? Two young men, Bob Jorn, whose first radio play this is, and DeForest Kelley, a bright new luminary in the Hollywood firmament who is presently being seen as Morgan Earp in Gunfight at OK Corral. Put them all together, and you have a strange half hour ahead. Listen then, as DeForest Kelley stars in Flesh Peddler, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
Smoke Kent with the micronite filter. It is the mild cigarette. It's got the freshest, cleanest taste yet. It is the mild Kent cigarette. Smoke Kent with the micronite filter. The freshest, cleanest taste yet. It is the mild Kent cigarette. Smoke Kent with the micronite filter.
And now, Mr. DeForest Kelley in Flesh Peddler, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I'm an agent, a booking agent. Flesh peddlers, we are sometimes unkindly called. But I don't peddle flesh. I sell talent. Singers, musicians, nightclub acts. And I'm pretty good at it. I've got an instinct for talent. When I find a new act that's really got it, I go after it until it's mine. Only the ventriloquist team of Wilson and Oliver, I wish I'd never heard of them. Then I could sleep better nights. My wife and I were vacationing in the Catskills last summer, and the night before we were due back in New York, a carnival pulled into town. Now, I don't want to sound like a snob, but to me, the carnival is the lowest form of show business. I hate them. But my wife, Gloria, loves them. Since I love Gloria, we went to the carnival.
Pete, isn't it exciting?
It's just cheap noise.
Oh, I wish it had come to town sooner.
I wish it hadn't come till tomorrow.
Oh, come on, Pete. You might even find some new talent.
Here?
Why not?
Freaks are for sideshows, honey, not class spots.
You never can tell. A bearded lady might go great at the Coca.
I can tell.
Folks, right here for the wonder of the Midway. Hey, the one and only Alexander Wilson and his lovable little dummy pal, Oliver. Hey, you've seen ventriloquists before, you say. Hey, but you've never seen anything to equal Wilson. The remarkable Wilson and Oliver. Hey, don't pass this by, friends.
Pete, let's go in.
Oh, ventriloquist, a dime a dozen.
Come on, I want to see him.
Honey, you've seen 100 just like him.
Well, maybe he's 1 in 100.
All right. We pushed through into the small tent and took our places on the hard, uncomfortable benches. Wilson was already seated on the platform, a typical childishly dressed dummy on his lap. He was a man in his 50s, I'd say, with the saddest face I've seen in 15 years of show business. When the people were in, he suddenly sprang the dummy to life.
Shut the doors! All sure, Mr. Wilson.
You're sure, Oliver?
Sure.
Well, then say hello to the people.
Hello to the people.
Oh, now, come, Oliver. You can do better than that.
I can?
Yes.
Well, you ought to know.
The routine was awful, dull, time-worn. But for some reason, this Wilson fascinated me. He had a talent, all right. His handling of the dummy was amazingly accurate. As the act went on, I began to think that Wilson was even better than the Barker said he was, and he was going over with the house. Wilson had Oliver sing while he himself smoked a cigarette. After a few more gag routines and a couple of neat tricks, the performance was over, and I knew I had to sign the act. I parked Gloria on the merry-go-round and then went looking for Wilson. I walked back to the Midway through the maze of painted trailers that were home to carny people. Suddenly the door to one of them flew open and a woman stepped out, a neatly trimmed beard covering her chin.
What do you want?
I'm looking for Alexander Wilson.
Wilson? Why?
I'm a talent agent from New York. I'd like to talk to him.
Agent?
Yes, Peter Harris, and you're...
Bernice, it's on the postage.
Oh, yes, of course, Bernice.
What do you want with Alexander Wilson?
I told you
Who is it, Bernice?
Talent agent. Never mind, go back in.
Agent?
I'm looking for Mr. Wilson.
Well, I'm Arthur. You caught my knife act? You know, I could pin a fly to a penny of
Quiet.
feet.
Don't mind him, Flesh Peddler. Go away. Go home. Agents are no good for us. Leave Wilson alone.
And you know, like I could put out a candle flame with a penknife at 30 feet, Agent Man.
Arthur?
And
go back in.
maybe he could sell my act.
Go in.
All right. Wilson's in trailer 17, Agent Man. Hey, if you ever need a good...
Shut up, Arthur. Shut up. Get in there. Forget what he said. Arthur is... well, he isn't quite bright. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's so wrong about seeing Wilson?
There are plenty acts like his. You don't need him.
Well, you've got my curiosity going now, Bernice.
I hadn't intended that. But forget your curiosity. And go home. Now.
Why?
Believe me, Flesh Peddler, you will thank me for this advice someday.
Which is trailer 17? I couldn't see why Bernice was so huffy. It was none of her business anyway. I roamed through the trailers with my cigarette lighter held high, looking for number 17. Finally, I found it. A small aluminum antique set apart from the rest, with a pre-war Chevy attached to it. The trailer was completely dark. Mr. Wilson.
What is it?
I'm Peter Harris. I'd like to talk to you.
What do you want?
Well, I'm an agent, Mr. Wilson. I'd like to see you.
Just a minute. Yes?
I just caught your act, Mr. Wilson. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to do business with you.
Do business?
Here's my card. My office places acts on all 4 networks and all the principal nightclubs.
I'm afraid it's out of the question. I never play nightclubs.
But...
yes, I never play nightclubs, Mr. Harris.
Well, could I come in for a moment, explain my setup? Maybe when you...
No, forgive me for appearing short, but I'm not interested in any offer you have to make.
To begin with, I can get you $200 a week.
Oh, excuse me.
$250?
No, I'm very tired, if you'll pardon me.
Okay, Mr. Wilson. But will you tell me why you want to stay with a 2-bit freak show when you could make a small fortune working with me?
No. No, I'm afraid I can't tell you. Good night.
I suppose I should have forgotten all about it, but I'm not used to the brush off. Like I say, when I see an act I want, I go after it until I get it. And then there was something about Wilson's reluctance that wasn't somehow on the level. As I walked back toward the bright lights and the noise at the midway, a figure stepped from behind one of the darkened trailers.
So you saw him?
Oh, Bernice. Yes, I saw him.
And are you satisfied?
Not at all.
Just more curious.
Exactly.
Only fools push their noses into other people's business, Flesh Peddler.
Harris is the name.
And only fools get themselves and other people into trouble.
Trouble? All I wanted was to offer him a nice fat job, $250 a week, and he slammed the door in my face.
Alexander Wilson cannot leave this carnival.
Why?
You don't know, Mr. Harris, and you're not going to know.
Know what?
Stop asking foolish questions. Your curiosity can do a great deal of harm.
Bernice, where does the carnival go from here?
Really, Mr. Harris, you don't expect me to...
Look, I can ask any one of the Barkers or setup men.
Ask them then.
All right, I will.
But remember, Flesh Peddler, if you follow us to Poughkeepsie,
Poughkeepsie?
Very well, now you know. But if you follow us and try to see Wilson again, you are a fool.
In just a moment, we continue with Suspense.
Who says you can't have your cake and eat it? With our vast network facilities at your disposal, you can hop in the car and get away from it all and still not miss out on any of the exciting entertainment you've been enjoying regularly at home. The latest news, our daytime dramas, the music and comedy shows that fill each evening with joy are all available to you whether you're perched at the top of the highest mountain or dangling a toe in the edge of the sea. The 6 dramatic shows that follow each other on CBS Radio every Sunday bring Broadway and Hollywood to you whether you're drifting downstream on a barge or flying high in a sports plane built for two. And the biggest variety shows can be enjoyed to the hilt on a pocket-sized transistor as well as the huge console radio in a luxurious country hotel. Summer is a time for fun outdoors. Summer is a time for travel. With CBS Radio at your side, summer is a time for top-flight entertainment, no matter where you happen to be, no matter what else you happen to be doing.
And now, we continue with the second act of Flesh Peddler, starring Mr. DeForest Kelley. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Gloria and I drove back to Manhattan the next morning. And 2 days later, I hopped a Poughkeepsie local out of Grand Central. The more I thought about Wilson, the more of a challenge he became. I wanted him for my list, but more than that, I wanted to find out what was behind Bernice's strange attitude. Now I wish I'd forgotten about the whole thing. In Poughkeepsie, I checked into a hotel, took a cab to the carnival grounds at the edge of town. It was late afternoon as I pulled up in front of the gaudy tents and booths, waiting for the evening crowds. I made my way through the cluttered midway, looking for Wilson's aluminum trailer and hoping I wouldn't run into Bernice.
Agent man. Hey, agent man. Hello.
Hello.
Remember me, Arthur the knife thrower? I can pin a fight to a penny.
Yes, I remember you.
And you've come for me?
What's that?
You come all this way to get me for your agency?
Well, no, I'm afraid not.
Oh. Well, that's all right. I mean, you know, like I've been giving it a lot of thought, and I don't think I could go with you anyway.
I see.
So I couldn't leave Bernice in the carnival. My sister says carny folk should stay with carny folk.
Your sister?
Bernice.
Oh. Arthur, why is Bernice so close-mouthed about Mr. Wilson? She acts as though she's afraid of him.
Well, us carny folks stick together, see? Like, we don't like other people sticking their noses into our business.
Bernice said that?
Yes.
Arthur, where's Mr. Wilson's trailer?
I don't know.
Oh, come now, Arthur.
Bernice says, you know...
I know. Bernice says too much.
I don't know anything, agent man. Well, I have to go practice my knife throwing now. I got to practice every day, you know.
Well, it was clear Bernice had given Arthur his instructions, and no thanks to him, I finally found Wilson's trailer set off from the rest. Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson! The door to the trailer was unlocked, and it swung open at my knock. Wilson obviously wasn't there, but I didn't think he'd mind if I went in and waited. The inside of the trailer was dim and musty. I left the door open to let in what little sunlight the day had left and sat in the lone chair in front of the makeup table. I was just about to reach for a cigarette when I had the feeling that I wasn't alone. I turned slowly in the chair and the back of my neck began to crawl. There on a shabby army cot was Wilson's dummy, propped up against the wall. The steady, unchanging expression of its face with the staring eyes and painted smile grinned back at me. It was weird and uncomfortable to be so close to this lifeless thing, unmoving, wooden. It seemed so real and alive on the platform in the tent. I tried to ignore it, but I couldn't. I looked away, but I could still feel it there, grinning at me in the early evening dimness. When I could stand it no longer, I got up and walked out of the trailer and bumped right into Bernice.
What did I tell you, Flesh Peddler?
Bernice,
What were you doing in there?
Waiting. For Wilson.
What did I tell you?
Now look, Bernice. I don't like you or anyone else telling me what I can or can't do. I want to see Wilson again. I'm waiting here.
Come with me, please. I must talk to you privately in my trailer. Sit down.
Well, what's on your mind, Bernice?
I didn't really think you'd follow us.
I told you I'm not easily discouraged.
Mr. Harris, I must warn you again to leave now without seeing Wilson.
I don't think you understand me. I'm used to getting what I go after.
Mr. Harris.
I intend to see Wilson to try to talk him into signing a contract. And you've said so far, all that you've said is go away. Can you give me a good reason for not seeing him? Okay, then why did you insist on dragging me in here?
Mr. Harris, can you assure me your interest in Wilson does not go beyond signing him as a client?
What do you mean?
Your interest in Wilson wouldn't by chance be in his past, his private life, and not in his professional talent.
I never heard of him until I caught his act 3 days ago.
Mr. Harris, I'd hoped I wouldn't have to tell you this. I didn't realize you were so stubborn, but...
Yes?
No. Alexander Wilson lost his mind many years ago. That doesn't disturb you.
It might, if I believed you, Bernice.
What?
I don't think Wilson's nuts. Apparently something's bothering him. Something big, maybe, but it's not insanity.
I suppose you know Wilson better than I do.
I didn't say that. But a man in my business meets every kind of person there is. The cheats, the phonies, the right guys, the bums.
So?
So you develop an instinct about people. And my instinct tells me Wilson is not insane. You'll have to try something better to scare me off.
Mr. Harris, Wilson thinks he's a murderer.
You are trying to scare me, aren't you?
If that's necessary to protect you and us, yes.
You think he might murder me, too?
I don't mean that. Actually, he never murdered anyone.
Look, Bernice, you don't make sense.
Don't you understand?
No.
I said Alexander Wilson thinks he is a murderer. He thinks he murdered a woman a long time ago. He's lived with this thought for years, nourished it, until he really believes it. It's driven him out of his mind.
Bernice, do you expect me to believe a cockamamie story like that?
It's the truth. So don't you see? The only place for him is here, in the carnival, with his own kind. We understand.
Well, hasn't anyone tried to help him, to make him realize
He's beyond that now. But with us, he's all right. Outsiders disturb him.
You haven't scared me off, Bernice.
You've got to stay away from him.
Why? If anything you've told me is true, it's only half the truth.
It's enough for you to know.
From you, maybe. Perhaps Wilson will tell me the rest.
I've warned you. I will not warn you again.
Hello, Bernice. Oh, hello again, Agent Man.
Hi, Arthur. How's your throwing arm?
Well,
Come in, Arthur. Mr. Harris is just leaving.
Yes. So long, Bernice.
Goodbye, Mr. Harris.
When the trailer door closed behind me, I guessed Bernice would start talking her fury out on Arthur. So I moved around to the small window in the back of the trailer to see if I could learn anything more.
I don't care. I don't even want you to say hello to him. Nothing. Understand?
But just saying hello don't hurt, does it, Bernice?
I don't want you to open your mouth in front of that man, even to yawn. I had to lie to him to get him away from you. And I don't want you saying anything to bring him back.
All right, Bernice.
Just pray he goes back to his flesh peddling in New York on the first train.
Just as I thought, Bernice had lied to me. I was determined to get to the bottom of this double talk about Wilson more than ever. This had become more important to me than signing him to the usual 7-year management contract. When I got back to Wilson's trailer...
Who's there?
It's Peter Harris again.
Who?
Peter Harris. I spoke to you a few days ago and...
What do you want?
I want to talk to you, Mr. Wilson.
Go away.
But I've come all the way from New York.
I must ask you to leave at once.
Look, Mr. Wilson, I'm not a detective. All I wanted when I first met you was to book you into the big time. But now there's something more. I think you need help. You need help badly.
No, you're mistaken.
Can I come in and talk to you?
Oh, good heavens, no.
Well, how about having a drink with me before the show? You look like you could use one.
Please, leave me alone.
Wilson, don't you see what these people are doing to you? For some reason, you're a haunted man, and this carnival is the worst place in the world.
Leave me now. Leave me, please. These people are all the help I need. Leave me alone.
I'll be at the hotel overnight. If you change your mind, Wilson, call me. No, I was mad. If he wanted to rot there, going with a carnival until it wasted away, it was no business of mine. I had a few drinks in my room at the hotel. Phoned Gloria that I'd be home the next day. Went to bed. Yes?
Mr. Harris?
Wilson.
Can you meet me right away?
Right away? What time is it?
I don't know. It's after midnight. It's 1:30.
Well,
Please. I must talk to you. Can you meet me?
Sure. Okay, where are you calling from?
An all-night drugstore.
Well, where is it?
Wait, no. Not here. Meet me at my trailer.
Okay.
And please, hurry.
It took me longer to wake the cab driver in front of the hotel than it did to get to the carnival grounds. I told the cab to wait and made my way through the darkened tents and trailers to number 17.
Come in.
What's the matter?
Mr. Harris, I've changed my mind. I want to leave with you tonight.
Tonight? Well, what's the...
Mr. Harris, you're the first person outside of the carnival I've talked to in more than 2 years. You're the first person I've had the courage to approach.
Go on.
I trust you, Mr. Harris. I can't see why, but I know you'll believe me and help me. I can't live like this anymore.
Sure. Now, just take it.
No. Listen to me. 2 years ago, I killed a woman. A beautiful woman. I loved her more than I've ever loved anything or anyone in my life. When I tried to tell her how much I loved her, she laughed at me. I couldn't stand that laugh.
I understand, Wilson. But that isn't exactly justification.
She and her son, she was divorced, were working in this very carnival when I first saw her, back in my hometown in Illinois.
Yes.
I fell in love. Oh, you can call me a rube, anything, but I was in love. I quit my job and followed the carnival for months. That's how much I loved her. And she laughed at me. So I shot her one night. And then I wanted to die, too. And when I saw her lying there at my feet, I wanted them to hang me, but they laughed at me.
They laughed at
The
you?
law, the police, they didn't believe I'd done anything. They wouldn't let me give myself up.
Where did you get this crazy idea, Wilson?
It isn't a crazy idea. It's the truth.
Look, lots of people get lots of funny ideas. They think about something they want to do, and they think about it so much that they really believe they've done it.
It was real from the beginning. I killed her. I did. But there was no evidence against me.
Listen, Wilson, you're not making sense.
You listen. He destroyed every bit of evidence so he could punish me himself. The police couldn't arrest or even suspect me.
Who destroyed what evidence, Wilson?
Her son, Oliver.
Oliver?
Yes, Mr. Harris. He's referring to me.
A trick? No. Wilson was too upset to be tricking me. I wheeled at the sound of his voice, and there in the doorway stood Wilson's dummy, Oliver, a small but capable pistol in his hand.
You are just as curious as Bernice said you were, Mr. Harris.
Oliver.
Bernice told me a lot about you. You had to know. And now you do.
No, you're not...
You shocked to learn I'm a midget. I must admit you gave me quite a start when you made yourself at home in the trailer this afternoon.
But that was...
That was me, Mr. Harris. Fortunately, I'd already made up for the evening performance.
Mr. Harris hasn't done anything, Oliver. Let him go.
That depends on you. You see, Mr. Harris, Wilson is no ventriloquist. I guess that's obvious now.
It is.
Wilson murdered my mother, and I protected him from the police.
But why?
Why? So the law couldn't punish him. What satisfaction would there have been for me if they'd just hanged him? He'd been dead in an instant. Is that enough punishment for a man who has murdered your mother? No. He deserved more. And I've given it to him. I've punished Alexander Wilson for years.
Oh, that's right, Mr. Harris. He's held this over my head ever since. Sitting on my lap at every performance, reminding me night and day. Well, I've had as much as I can stand. So go ahead, Oliver. Shoot! Shoot!
Oliver, be sensible. If you pull that trigger there, you're...
They? Bernice and Arthur and everyone else? Bernice already knows, and now I don't care if the others do, too.
For heaven's sake, shoot me. Get it over with. Shoot me, you monster! Shoot me!
With horror frozen on his face, Wilson slid to the floor, dead. Then Oliver turned on me, the pupils of his eyes tiny with madness and his frail little body trembling.
I'm afraid this is one act you can't book, Mr. Harris.
Oliver.
You wanted to know everything.
Oliver, now wait.
I'm really sorry for your sake. He asked me to let you go, but under the circumstances.
No.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harris.
It flashed by my head and landed quivering in Oliver's chest, a long gleaming knife blade. And there was Arthur in the doorway of the trail with Bernice, his face like stone, watching Oliver crumple the little distance to the floor. Slowly the faces of the others appeared in the doorway, silent. The terror I was holding back was of physical pain. I walked to the door and stood looking down at the little body lying awkwardly like a dummy now. A lifeless thing, unmoving, staring, even with the traces of a painted smile grinning up at me.
This couldn't have gone on any longer, I suppose. The police will come now, and at last there'll be an end to it. Go home, Flesh Peddler, and forget all about us.
I went home, but I haven't forgotten, and I'm afraid I never will.
Suspense, in which DeForest Kelley starred in William N. Robeson's production of Flesh Peddler, written by Robert Durham. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with Pigeon in the Cage, starring Lloyd Bridges. Another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. Supporting Mr. Kelley and Flesh Peddler were D.J. Thompson, Gretchen Connie, Dawes Butler, Howard McNear, and Dick Beals.
How are your brakes? Not the ones in your car. We're sure you keep those in tip-top working order. But how about your own brakes? Are they in working shape? When you're behind the wheel of your car and you feel that impulse to challenge the legal speed limit, can you stop that impulse on a dime? When a less courteous driver does something downright stupid that may inconvenience you, are you likely to do something twice as foolish just to show him he can't push you around? Or can you say halt to your anger before it leads to an accident? Students of human behavior have discovered that most of the accidents on our highways are the result of emotional immaturity. An adult can control his feelings and concentrate on his goal. Don't let childish attitudes keep you from reaching your destination. When other drivers and traffic regulations annoy you, use the brakes in your head as quickly as you would the ones on your car. Remember, accidents don't have to happen.
Listens most to the CBS Radio Network. Howard Bridges in Pigeon in the Cage. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I'm Gerald Brewer. I'm 31 years old and I'm a paper hanger. I got a wife and I got a kid on the way. She'd like to be home now. Wish I were out of here. Right under the button here it says, ring in case of emergency. But nothing happens. I've been ringing this bell for the last hour. Nothing happens. Nobody's home, I know that, but I don't know what else to do except ring this bell. I'm stuck in an elevator in a private house between the first and second floor. The overhead light went out a few minutes ago, and I can hardly see. This elevator isn't very big. It holds, 3 people, 4. There's a lever here for floor stops. But something's going wrong. The elevator won't move. And there's 2 buttons here, one that rings a bell and the other for emergency stops. Overhead, maybe about, 8 feet from the floor is a little door, maybe about 6 inches square. I don't know what that's for. That's a pretty old elevator in a pretty old house. Can't squeeze out of it, that's for sure. The 3 walls of this thing are cherry wood, and the front of it is a folding iron gate. I got on it on the 4th floor where I was papering the library. It was 5 o'clock, and I was quitting work. Then the elevator got stuck. And nobody's home. I've been yelling my lungs out, ringing the bell, calling for Mrs. Rogers, who owns this house, and pounding the wall. Nobody's home. I'm stuck. The elevator's stuck right above the first floor, right above the living room. So, lying down like this, I can see into it through a gap, no bigger than a quarter inch. I'm worried a little about my wife because she'll worry. But there's nothing I can do but wait. Relax and wait. All right. You all right, Jerry? That's what woke me. Someone was home and talking, and I was going to yell out and let them know that I was stuck in the elevator right above their heads.
You've got to kill her. See? The only way to do it. Kill her dead.
All right.
You've got nothing to worry about. I'll kill her when she gets home. Okay? Okay, Janet?
When your wife's dead, I'll be okay.
Hey, how about some music? I'll put out some records. Relax.
Harry?
What?
What about the gun?
Don't worry.
Do me a favor, will you, Harry? Let me worry. Let me know what...
All right, the gun's upstairs, second floor, my bedroom. Listen, Janet. You don't even have to be there when it happens.
When's your wife coming home?
Soon. Look. Want a drink?
Maybe, I don't know.
Come on. Let's go to the kitchen. Mix a drink.
I don't know who the girl is. I never saw her before. What I could make out of her looking through the gap is that she's a lot younger than Mr. Rogers. That was Mr. Rogers. I knew that right away without looking at him. I remembered his voice because we'd had a discussion about wallpaper pattern 1216B. It was Sunday strollers in the park for the library on the 4th floor. Well, if he was going to kill his wife and I just heard about it, what do you think he'd do to me? All I had to do was yell out and let him know that I'd heard. Listen, I got a wife and a kid in the way. I'm a boy who figures on hanging a lot more paper before he dies. My family expects it of me. Besides, what am I supposed to do? Yell out, hey, I'm hanging up here in the elevator and I just heard what you said. How do I know that Mr. Rogers wouldn't kill me, huh? I guess all I can do is just stay here and hope that I can think of something.
Better? You better, Janet?
The drink did it. I'm fine.
What shall we do?
What do you mean?
Why, waiting.
I don't mind waiting now. I feel fine.
We left the party. We were dancing. Let's dance. Janice. Janice.
What's the matter?
Nothing. Let's just not laugh, that's all. Let's not do anything to make the other one laugh.
Now who's nervous?
She ought to be coming home soon.
Let go of me.
Now, look.
Nothing wrong, Harry. Just right now, let go of me.
Okay. I better go upstairs and get the gun. This confounded thing is stuck.
What?
The elevator. Stuck again. Door down in the basement keeps swinging open and stops it. Stuck.
Sure it's stuck. Look right over your head.
Oh, yeah.
Harry,
What?
suppose someone's in that elevator.
Are you kidding?
Suppose someone's in that elevator, Harry.
How could anybody...
Tell me how it got stuck.
How do I know how it got stuck?
Suppose someone's on that elevator and heard everything we said.
Now, look, it's happened 100 times before. Suppose the elevator went upstairs and I stood here and rang for it. The elevator would start, but if the basement door swung open, the elevator would stop.
All right.
You satisfied?
All right.
It happened to my wife. And she walked instead of closing the door in the basement. It happened...
All right.
Gun to the bedroom. I'll walk upstairs and get it.
Mr. Rogers went to get the gun. I could hear him go into his bedroom, where yesterday I papered with the hunters on horseback pattern. I watched the girl that he called Janice. She sat on the sofa for a little while, and she got up, folded her arms, and walked around the room. She stopped in front of the elevator.
Anybody in there? Anybody in there?
She kept looking at the gap where the floor of the elevator was a quarter inch above the top of the door. But the light was out in the elevator, and it was black. I hugged the far wall. She couldn't see me. Then Mr. Rogers came back downstairs.
Still not satisfied, are you?
What do you mean?
Looking at the elevator.
I'm satisfied.
Well?
I tell you, I'm okay.
Would it make you feel better if I went down to the basement and shut the door down there, stopped the elevator in your seat?
Forget it.
It would make you feel better, wouldn't it?
Leave me alone, will you?
Janice.
Stop it, Harry, please.
You want to forget it, Janice? You want to go back to the party?
No.
Listen, I'll go down and close the elevator down in the basement.
All right.
That's what's upsetting you, isn't it? You're afraid someone's in there.
Yes.
Well, why didn't you say so?
Please go downstairs and close the... Harry.
Yeah, it's her. You wait here.
Yes.
I'll do it out in the garage. We're going to have to hurry. Make it look like a robbery.
All right, Harry.
She keeps the jewel in the safe there. Watch out, Janice.
Don't push me.
Well, you're standing in the way. The safe's behind that picture.
Just tell me to move it. I'll move. Don't push me anymore, Harry.
I'm sorry. 12 to the right, 18 to the left, 20 feet.
Harry, the phone.
I know it's the phone. Answer it.
What?
Answer it. Say you're Mrs. Rogers and get rid of whoever it is in a hurry. Say you'll call back.
Hello? Yes, this is Mrs. Rogers. Who? Paper hanger? No, I'm sure of it. Yes, goodbye. Harry.
What is it?
Was there a paper hanger here today?
Huh? I guess so. The place is being papered. Why?
That was his wife, Mrs. Brewer.
Oh?
He's not home. She expected him home hours ago. She knew he was here. Harry, the elevator.
Yeah. Brewer. You up there? What about it, Brewer? You up there? Okay, Brewer, don't bother to answer. I'll find out whether you're up there. And if you are, you're dead.
And now, we continue with the second act of Pigeon in the Cage, starring Mr. Lloyd Bridges. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Well?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
He's in there. I'm sure he's in that elevator. And he knows what we did. Harry...
Wait a second, will you? Brewer! You heard what I said, didn't you? You're in there, I'll kill you. Jenny, give me a chair. Maybe if I stand or not, I can see him. Brewer! Brewer, you won't be able to hide in there for very long, Brewer.
Can you see him, Harry?
I don't know. Black in there. This slit is all I have to look through. Turn off that music, will you?
What's the music got to do with...
Turn it off!
Harry.
What?
Listen, Harry. We're getting panicky, both of us. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're wrong. Maybe the paper hanger just stopped at the corner bar and got loaded and never got home. Maybe...
We gotta find out. Gotta get out of here, Janice. Back to the party. I'll go down to the basement and close that elevator door and bring it down.
All right.
You wait here.
Harry.
Pour yourself a drink, Janice. You look terrible.
Why don't you just wait to hear what I have to say?
All right. What do you want?
Take the gun with you, in case he's there.
Okay.
How about that? Wouldn't you think that my wife had... No, it wasn't her fault for calling. For being worried, for being such a good wife. But if she hadn't called, Mr. Rogers and that girl would have gone away. We always blame somebody else when we're in trouble, don't we? Well, one thing I'm sure of. Mr. Rogers has a gun in his hand. And the other thing I'm sure of is that he isn't kidding. I'm positive that he isn't kidding. The man who's just killed his wife isn't a kidding type. Now, here's what he's about to do. Close the basement elevator gate, push the button, and bring the elevator down. Then he's going to open the door, see me, shoot me. A man with a family, like I said, and I got a good trade, paper hanging. And a lot of things I'd like to enjoy in life. So I don't want to die. You know what my life depends on right now? This button, marked emergency stop. Mr. Rogers closes the gate and tries to bring the elevator down to the basement. And me inside the elevator, I keep my finger on the emergency stop button and I pray. Nothing happens. The elevator doesn't move.
Alice!
What's the matter?
You doing anything up there?
What? What do you mean?
Pressing a button or anything?
I'm not doing anything, Harry.
Well, something's wrong.
What?
What's the matter? I don't know. Just in case, I'm going to leave this door open, Janice, and I'm cutting out.
Mister, if you're in there, mister, if you're in there in that elevator and you know what's happened, and if there's some way the three of us can get together so that nobody has to get hurt anymore, listen. All right, we killed his wife. You don't know what she was. You don't know what she was. She was...
Janice, what are you doing?
So we can reason with him if he's in there. Maybe all we have to do is explain why it happened and maybe tell him we're not so bad.
You know what I think, Janice? I think there's no one in there.
There is. I know it, Harry.
All right. We'll make sure. Come on. We'll go upstairs up to the second floor. I've got a way to make sure.
How?
I'll climb down into the elevator from the second floor. There's a little trap door on top. I'll open it, strike a light. I'll find out. Come on.
Have you got matches, Harry?
I'll use my lighter. I got the trap door open.
Can you see him?
Wait. There. Now I'm going to have to...
Hey, what is it? What's the matter?
He's in there, Janice. When I reached in, he knocked the lighter out of my hand. He's in there.
Kill him. Kill him. You've got to kill him.
No, we don't. It's all right now. It's all right that he's in there.
What do you mean?
We killed my wife, right? We were going to take her jewelry. We'd make it look like a robbery and murder. We'd make it look like she surprised the thief. She was coming home and the thief was leaving.
Yes.
Well, don't you see? I'll bring a body up here to the bedroom, and then I'll throw the jewelry in the elevator, empty the gun, throw it in. He'll be the thief. The murderer trapped in the elevator. Hey! How do you like that, brother? You'll be the murderer.
Do it. Just do it, Harry.
It's going to be all right.
Just do it.
I'll be right back.
Mister? We know you're in there, mister. Just a couple of feet below. Listen, mister.
What do you want?
Hello, Mr. Paperhanger Brewer.
You think that
What?
If you think that you can get away with it,
I tried to reason with you.
all I wanted you to do is to go away.
I talked to your wife.
She was worried, wasn't she?
If you'd listened to me, you could have been home by now.
How could I listen to you after what you did?
I tried to explain it to you, and you wouldn't listen.
Mr. Rogers was a married man. You carried on with him, didn't you? You know what?
What?
He shot his wife, but you're just as much a murderer as he is.
I know.
Now, how can you expect me to listen to you?
I don't want anybody else to get hurt.
Yeah, I know.
Honest.
How about the way you said kill him, huh? Meaning me. Well, what about that?
Because you had to act so smart. Because you didn't answer when I talked to you.
Yeah, I saw you.
What do you mean?
When you were downstairs in the living room, I was lying down on the floor in there, and I saw you. I can't understand how anybody who looks like you can do what you did.
What does your wife look like?
Why?
What do you look like?
You don't even know me. You don't even know what a man looks like, and you're going to do what you're going to do.
Yes, I am. Mister? Mr. Paperhanger, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. Why don't you answer me?
Give me a hand, Janice. Janice, what's the matter? It's almost over here. Here. Put it down. Here. I got the jewelry. Here, hold it a minute. I just want to take the rest of the bullets out of this gun. No. Wait a minute.
What did you have to do that for?
Now there's no more bullets in the gun. Bullets are in the wall. Now knock over pieces of furniture. Make this place look like a mess. Like she put up a fight.
Now what do you have to do?
Just climb down there again on top of the elevator, that's all. I told you it'll be over in a minute. Hey, you. Brewer. Not talking, huh? I don't mind. I'm going to give you something, Brewer. Here, jewelry, bracelet, and a necklace. Worth a lot of money, Brewer. Here's a gun, too. Empty because it's the one you killed my wife with. Have fun, Brewer.
Can you believe it? Just look what's happened to me. I'm paper in the house. I get caught in an elevator. And now I'm going to be blamed for murder. And there's nothing that I can do about it. Rogers and the girl are on the first floor now. He's helping her with her coat. She still looks shaky. I can lie down on the floor and see him through the gap. Hey, they're starting to leave. Mr. Rogers. You're not going to get away with it, Mr. Rogers. Before you go, you better think about something. What about the fingerprints? What about the fingerprints on the gun, Mr. Rogers? You forgot to wipe them off, didn't you? Hello, Mr. Rogers. I'm lying down on the floor of the elevator, and I'm looking out of the gap, and I can see you. Hello, miss. I'm in here, and you're out there. But you're the ones that are trapped now. Mr. Brewer. What do you want, Mr. Rogers? Mr. Brewer,
Harry. It's right, isn't it? Your fingerprints are on the gun.
Mr. Brewer, I guess we better make some arrangements, shouldn't we? Janet.
What?
Go down to the basement and shut the elevator door. Then Mr. Brewer will be able to bring the elevator down. Go ahead, Janice. Hurry.
How does it feel?
Well, the first thing I want to tell you is that you can keep the jewels.
How does it feel to be trapped?
Now, really, now, we'll talk this over.
Feels terrible, doesn't it?
Well, when you come out of the elevator.
I don't think so. I don't know whether I'm going to come out or not. Not now.
It's closed, Harry.
Come on up.
All I have to do is keep my finger on this emergency stop button, and you can't move this elevator an inch.
Now, let's be reasonable.
You killed your wife, Mr. Rogers. How do I know what else you got down there that you might kill me with?
Do you think I would...
Yeah. You know what a silly question that is, don't you? Look, I got this gun of yours, and it's proof that you killed her. And no amount of arguing that you can think of can change that.
Money. I got lots of money.
I don't think money's important right now.
Well, why is
He won't come out.
What?
No, sir. I'm not coming out. I got you two where I want you, and I'm not moving.
Janice, tell him how rich I am, how much I can do for him.
Harry.
Tell him.
Harry.
All the things I can do.
All the things you can do. Look what you can do. Haven't you done enough already? Look what you can do.
Stop it. Shut up. Janet. Janet, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hit you. I didn't mean to. Oh. You're not dead. You're not dead, Janet. Dead, Janet. Dead, Janet. Dead, Janet. No. I didn't mean to. You're not dead, Janet.
Yeah, Mr. Rogers, yeah. Look at the things that you can do. Hello, Norma. This is Jerry, dear. No, everything's fine. Yeah, in just a little while. No, really, everything's fine. I'll tell you about it when I get home. I got stuck in an elevator is all. I said I got stuck in an elevator. Suspense.
And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
The American standard of living is the highest on earth. We no longer consider an automobile or an electric refrigerator or a TV set a luxury. They're necessities and taken for granted. Who cares if the smallest practical coin is a dime? We've got it made. Yet, in this richest land on earth, there are communities where a 10-cent candy bar acquires a strange and distorted value, where a box of peanut brittle can be worth a man's life. Communities you and I never visit. The places where we, like careless housekeepers, sweep our dirt under the national rug so it will not be seen. The gray-walled communities where thousands of men live a restless and useless existence. The prisons of America. Of one of these, we have a story to tell. Listen. Listen then as Skip Homeyer stars in Peanut Brittle.
And now, Skip Homeyer in Peanut Brittle, a prison tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Wow, the bell. It jarred you, huh?
Oh, it's awful loud.
You'll get used to it. Everything's loud in here. Bells, whistles, the cell doors. Where you from?
Upstate.
Put your stuff on the top bunk. That's your new home. What you carrying?
What?
What you carrying? Time.
Oh, 1 to 10.
Climbing in windows, huh? They got me on armed robbery. You ain't gonna be here long.
Well, I got 1 to 10.
Man, you'll do a hot minute. The warden will kiss you on the cheek and you'll be home with Mother before you know it.
I don't know about that.
Listen, man, doing time in this joint is nothing. That is, if you know how. You hungry?
Sort of.
Don't be afraid to speak up. Man, you'll always be hungry in this lousy place. You like candy?
Sometimes.
You're a fish, all right. But you'll get to like candy real well, real soon. Man, it's the only thing inside. You want some?
Well, what kind?
You never asked that in here. Just take it. You got any money on the books?
What?
Money. Credit in the warden's office, so you can have canteen in here.
No.
How are you going to smoke and eat things you like? Man, after a few weeks, them candy bars start tasting like caviar. Here, have some peanut brittle. It's good, man. Have some.
Thanks.
Forget it. I know we can get a lot more. Ever played dominoes?
When I was a kid?
Listen, man, you're going to play again. You and me. We're going to play for candy. Lots and lots of candy.
Well, the captain of the yard told us...
He told you gambling wasn't nice, right?
Well, not like that. He told
you you'd get in trouble. Listen, man, we're going to play it real cool. As soon as you get around this place a little and the head shrinkers get through quizzing you, we're going to hit the yard as the domino team to beat.
Well, I heard about those games. Don't it take cigarettes or canteen ducats to get in them?
You got big ears, man. Well, hear this. We're going to bust into those games with next to nothing.
How?
The build-up.
Huh?
You're new. You're fish. I'm going to build you up as really somebody, a guy with plenty of dough and connections on the outside. Get it?
Oh, I don't know. It sounds kind of like asking for trouble. What happens if we lose?
What happens if we have to keep eating this lousy chow? What happens if you hit the rack every night so hungry you could chew the bars off the cell door? What happens if I think you're chicken?
I don't know.
Now, listen, man, I'm telling you, we can't miss. When I get through spreading the word about you, those guys will break their necks getting us into a big game. Don't you see? We got a chance to clean up. Besides, I know how to play dominoes. I'm not going to let us lose. Oh, by the way, my name's Marino. Tommy Marino. What's your handle?
Eddie Kip.
Glad to know you, partner. What do you think of the yard?
It's big, isn't it? Seems like everybody who ever lived is inside.
The best citizens. Hey, look, over there. That's where we're going to open shop. One of Sky Grogan's games.
Who's he?
Bad, man. Plain bad. But he's got all kinds of connections. He's got what we want, the game and the loot. I've already told him about you.
I don't know.
It's a setup, man. Sky wants new players with them. I've known Sky a long time. He's been here a long time, too. He's doing it all. life without parole. But he's a good guy. Come on, let's go over and meet him. How you doing, Sky?
Hi, kid.
You busy for a minute, man?
What's on your mind?
I'd like you to meet my buddy I told you about, Eddie.
Hi, Eddie. Hi.
You letting any new guys in this game?
Like you, too?
That's right.
I don't know.
What does it take to get in?
Canteen, ducats, cigarettes, candy. What you got?
Some peanut brittle. A half box of it.
Is there more? Where'd that come from?
Sure. Here.
Okay. But I don't want any belly aching if you lose. If you win, I pay right then. I want it the same way. You guys playing double or single?
Together.
You want in now?
Well, that's what we're here for. We got our own dominoes. Eddie?
Yeah, here they are.
You get over there. I'll stay this side of the table. Hey, Sky, who are your players?
Johnny, Sid, Tom, and Ray.
Hi. Deuce.
Here's 6 for you.
6 right back at you.
Trey.
Double 4. You got it, Eddie.
Double 4, and I'll put an ace on top of it.
Here's 5. We'll see it.
It's noon chow. You guys gonna eat?
Not me. How about the other guys?
They'll stick if you want.
Well, let's play then. Tommy, we're losing too much. Shut up. Top the tray.
I got it for you. And 4 on that.
I'm playing a 6.
And a deuce.
All right, come away. You men too. Come on, wrap them up. Okay. All right, put them away.
Hey. Are you guys forgetting something?
I told you we should have quit. Tell me up.
You owe me exactly 1 box of peanut brittle. Those 10 pegs say so, right?
If that's the way you read them.
Who's holding the sack for you two?
Eddie here.
I haven't got anything.
Well, you told me you had plenty of canteen ducats.
Hey, cut the bull. You guys come into this game talking big canteens, so I want what's coming to me. We'll get it up.
Hey, man, don't say we. You were supposed to back us up.
It was your idea.
You see what happens when you play with kids? Honest, Guy, he told me he had all kinds of loot. So naturally, I figured...
You're lying. I didn't say anything.
Hey, man, look out who you're calling liar.
Listen, you punks. I want what you owe this game. I want candy, peanut brittle. I want it real quick, a whole box. You, kid, pick a better partner next time.
Don't worry, I will.
Listen, punk, or whatever your name is, you come into this joint, into this game with a lot of big talk about who you were, what you had. You said
that was all Tommy's doing. I only told the guys what you told me. I don't get it. You said if we played.
Listen, you're new here, so I'm going to give you a break. You get that candy by tonight. After we're locked up from supper, and we'll forget all about it, okay?
Where am I going to get it?
I don't care where or how you get it, but get it. Or you better find a way to beat that wall.
What am I going to do? Oh, how do I know, man? I want to hit the sack, do you mind?
Yes, I do. You know I haven't got any money on the books. You know I haven't got any friends outside that send me money. Well, what am I going to do? You were the guy that wanted to build me up for us to play. Now you don't know me. Is that it?
Listen, I thought you was a hustler. I figured if we ever lose, you'd be smart enough to hustle up some canteen. I put something in the game, didn't I?
Why don't you be a right guy and help us get out of this jam?
Us? This is your mess, not mine.
Well, what am I supposed to do? Cook up a batch of peanut brittle here in the cell? What's Guy Grogan going to do? Kill me for a lousy box of peanut brittle?
It's been done for a lot less.
Something for me. You know better. I haven't had time to raise anything. You heard me. You heard what I said out in the yard, didn't you? After supper. Well, sure I did, but you got to give a guy some time. Time? Don't give me that time bit, punk.
Leave me alone. I'll leave you alone, hanging head down from this balcony.
Let go of me. No, let me go. Please, Guy. Help!
Hey, man, easy. You'll fall.
Shut up, or I'll heave you over the railings, too. Please, Guy, don't let me fall.
here. All I gotta do is let go of your legs.
Please, Guy,
What do you say, kid? What are you gonna get me, huh? What you gonna get me, kid?
Peanut brittle.
By tomorrow morning, right?
Yes.
Yeah, remember, tomorrow morning, when we go to breakfast, I want that peanut brittle. Or next time I'll let you drop. A scram. That's the last lockup. That guy's crazy, Tommy. He's nuts. If he let go, I'd have fallen 5 tears. I'd have been killed.
He wouldn't have dropped you.
That's what you think. I gotta do something.
Why don't you go see the captain? He'd be glad to help you.
How?
Put you on protection roll.
What's that?
That's where they put you when the other cons put the heat on a guy. Like if he gambles and can't pay his losses.
You're by yourself, huh?
Sort of. If you mean the rest of the guys in the yard can't get to you.
Well, how long do you stay there?
Until the captain figures no one's after you anymore.
Maybe that's where I ought to go.
I'll tell you something, man. You picked the wrong guy to run away from. Sky's got friends all over the joint. You know what he'd do? He'd pay a guy to mess up and get put on protection just so the guy could get to you.
I don't get it. Why all the hell over some candy? We haven't got it.
You mean you haven't got it?
Okay, I haven't got it.
Listen, man. Sky's doing life. And when you're a lifer, you don't stand anybody giving you a bad time.
I'm not hurting him.
No? One guy gets away owing Sky canteen, some other character will try it. So if you're Sky, you don't let anybody get into you for canteen. See?
Hey, which one of you guys is Eddie?
Me.
Sky Grogan sent me down to remind you about tomorrow morning at breakfast. He said something about peanut brittle.
What am I supposed to do? Fly out of this cell and get him his peanut brittle?
Hey, don't give me a hard time. I'm just carrying the word.
I'm sorry.
Save it for yourself, man. Sky ain't kidding.
Well, won't he take any other kind of candy instead of peanut brittle?
Sky says peanut brittle. Nothing else.
Well, why just peanut brittle?
Well, he uses it to get cigarettes or favors from the other cons.
Doesn't he want it to eat?
Are you kidding? Sky don't like any kind of candy, especially peanut brittle. He's got stomach ulcers. Dressed already. The lights just came on.
I couldn't sleep.
Hey, man, relax.
Is Sky after you?
Oh, chow will make you feel better.
I'm not hungry. When the unlocked bell rings, I'm taking off.
Where?
I don't know, but I don't want any more accidents that might happen on purpose. I'll see you.
Hey, wait a minute, man. Where's your boy going?
I don't know, Sky.
He ain't going far anyway.
Hey, man, why don't you give him a break?
You want to pay the canteen?
Well, why, no, man. I haven't got anything.
Neither is he, right?
He don't know nobody.
That's too bad. If you was any kind of a guy, you'd help the punk.
I can't, man.
You're a sad man. Real sad. If you see your boy, tell him there's no use running. Them walls can't run with him.
Is the chaplain in?
I'll see. You got a pass?
No, but I got to see him. Really, I got to see him.
Yeah. Yes? Chaplain, hey, what's your last name and number?
Kip. 99319.
There's a Kip. 99319 wants special interview.
Would you tell him to wait a few moments?
Yes, sir. Take a seat. He'll be out pretty soon. Hey, aren't you in some sort of rhubarb with Sky Grogan?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, you do. You and Marino played one of Sky's domino games. You couldn't come up with the loot, could you?
That's my problem.
Taking it to the chaplain, huh? He can't do you no good, except take you to the captain so you can sing to him.
I'm not seeing the chaplain about that.
Oh, you kidding's written all over your kisser. You're scared.
How long you think the chaplain will be?
Why don't you just pay, Sky? Ain't gonna do any good squawking to the chaplain.
Why don't you leave me alone?
I'm just telling you something for your own good, fella.
I don't need your advice. I can take care of myself.
Yeah, sure you can.
Where is the man who wanted to see me?
Why, he just left, sir, so he couldn't wait after all.
Oh? Was he in trouble?
Everybody in here in trouble, ain't they, sir?
Eddie, why don't you take it easy, Eddie? You'll live longer.
You tell Sky that.
Look, man, I got the solution. Why don't you just hide out somewhere? Then maybe I could scratch up some canteen and...
Hide out where?
I know a place where no one can find you. Not even Sky. Come on, I'll show you.
Why are you worrying about me so sudden?
You want help, or don't you?
Sure I want help.
Well, shut up then and listen. This place I'm talking about is on top of the east cell block.
Where?
Right on top of the east block under the roof. You good at climbing girders and stuff?
Well, I guess so. How long do I stay there?
Until lockup before supper. When you hear the bell, come down. Now, let's go before someone sees us. Come on. How about this? Who's going to find you here? Unless someone tells him.
I don't know. It's awful high up here. I don't have much room to move around.
You going to practice dancing up here or something? Now just sit still until it's time to come down.
Can't even see the floor from here. You can't see anything. If a guy fell, he'd just slide off the roof of the cell block. Nothing would stop him.
You want to keep away from Sky, don't you?
Yes.
Well, then stop worrying, man. You're safe now.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I'll make you a deal.
Coming from you, it's probably crooked.
Come on, man, I'm serious. I got a deal. You know that peanut brittle Kip owes you?
Yeah.
Put me back in one of your games and I'll tell you where you can find Kip.
Aren't you his cell partner? His buddy?
So?
You don't like him suddenly. That it?
That doesn't have anything to do with it. I'm on your side.
Like a rattlesnake.
Do you want to find Kip?
Maybe.
I need some canteen, cigarettes, candy, anything.
And your buddy is the price.
He's not my buddy. I thought you wanted to get the canteen he owes you.
Has he got it?
I don't know.
He's pretty scared, isn't he?
You can bet on that.
Tell you what, I've been thinking it over. The kid's new, but he wouldn't listen to a rat like you. I'm going to give him a good scare. Teach him a lesson. Where is he?
Cigarettes? Candy?
All right. You got credit in one of the games for 5 packs of cigs or a box of peanut brittle.
Okay. He's hiding on top of the east block, the yard end. He's up in the girders. There's a flat spot there. That's where he is.
How'd you find that spot?
I took him there.
Real friend, huh? Okay, take the game nearest the north block door, and I'll get out of my face.
You said you wanted to find Eddie?
Yeah. It's great to have friends. Hey, kid. Who's that? Someone coming? Hey. Hey, who's there? Tommy, is that you?
Friend of his.
Sky!
Yeah? It's me, kid. What you hiding for?
Look, leave me alone. Please leave me alone.
You can't pay a man what you owe him clear up here. Can you, kid?
Get away. Get away, please. You're making it hard on yourself, kid. You know I'll get that canteen.
I haven't got any, and I can't get any.
Hey, kid, well, wait a minute. Come back. Come on back.
No, you ain't gonna get me.
Look out. Hey, kid, look out. Back of you. Look out.
Stretcher out right away. What happened, son?
I'm hurt real bad.
All right, son, lie still. Sergeant, you know this boy?
Yes, sir. Kip, he's new here.
Did you see what happened?
No, sir, I only heard him fall.
From one of the tiers?
I believe the roof of the block. I was on the 5th tier myself checking cells. He fell right past me.
Eddie didn't fall, sir. He was pushed.
What's that, Marino?
I said he was pushed.
Pushed? Who pushed him?
Grogan, sir.
Hi, Grogan. Hey, you up there! Stop where you are! Call off the gun, Bulls. I'm coming down.
All right, Grogan, make it careful. The captain wants to see you.
Marino, you say Grogan pushed the boy here?
Yes, sir. I saw him do it, sir. I was standing right here, and Grogan pushed Eddie.
All right, you men. All right, get back to the yard. The show's over. Come on. Let's move. All right, what were you doing up there, Grogan?
Trying to talk to the kid here.
Kip?
Yeah.
Marino says you pushed the boy off the top.
He's a dirty rotten.
He was after both Eddie and me, sir. We knew too much about his gambling games. I saw him push Eddie.
You're lying and you're... All right, both of you, shut up. Marino.
Hey, yes, sir?
Look up there where you said you saw Kip pushed.
I am, sir.
All right, what do you see?
The 5th tier. I mean the top of the block.
You're lying, Marino. It's impossible to see the roof of the cell block from here. How did you know the boy was up there? How did you know Grogan was up there? Answer me, Marino. How did you know?
Oh, Captain, because I told Sky. What are you yelling at me for? Sky pushed him, I saw it.
All right, Sergeant. Put them both in isolation.
No, Captain, you got me wrong, Captain. Eddie was a buddy of mine. A real buddy. I was his friend.
Sure, punk. You loved him till it hurt. You're a real friend. Well, me and the boys in the yard are going to be real friends, too. We're going to kill you with kindness. Suspense. In which Skip Homeyer starred in William N. Robeson's production of Peanut Brittle, written by Jules Maitland. Listen again next week when we return with another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. Supporting Mr. Homeyer in Peanut Brittle were John Daner, Lou Krugman, Peter Leeds, Lou Merrill, and Barney Phillips.
Brought to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, a master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
The security of mankind is guaranteed by the balance of nature. If there weren't bigger fish to eat smaller fish, eventually there would be more fish than water for them to swim in. The rabbit is public enemy number one in Australia because there is no indigenous predator with a craving for Hassenpfeffer. The law of the jungle is implacable, and when it is broken, when nature's balance is upset, man had better head for the hills. In a moment, we bring you a classic story of nature's imbalance. On one side, the frightful Formicidiae doryalinae, ants, millions of South American army ants. And on the other, a man who knew no fear. Listen then, as William Conrad stars in Leinengen versus the Ants.
And now, William Conrad in Leinengen versus the Ants. A story well calculated to keep you in suspense.
I first met Leinengen while performing my duty as commissioner of the Toto Santo district along the upper reaches of the Santissima River. As my boat neared his plantation landing, I saw him upon the river bank regarding me with mild interest. A great hulk of a man with bristling gray hair, bulky nose, and lucid eyes. His entire appearance somehow suggested an aging and shabby eagle. I came quickly to the point of my visit and issued my warning. Leinengen puffed placidly at a huge cigar and seemed unimpressed.
It's decent of you paddling all this way just to give me the tip, Commissioner. But even a herd of crocodiles couldn't frighten me from my plantation.
You don't understand. These aren't creatures you can fight. These are army ants. They're an elemental force, a gigantic catastrophe, an act of God. 10 miles long, 2 miles wide. Ants. Nothing but ants. And each one as big as your thumb. Why, they can strip a man's body to a skeleton in 6 minutes.
Commissioner, in the 3 years I've been here, I've met and defeated more than one catastrophe. Flood, drought, plague. I'm not going to run from this one.
I tell you, Leinengen, you don't know these ants. But he merely sat there, puffing at his cigar and regarding me with a grin. But I knew it was hopeless. As I boarded my launch and cast off, I felt a sudden resentment toward this obstinate madman. And yet with it was something else. I'd never met a man like this before.
I couldn't help watching the commissioner's launch until it rounded a bend and was lost to sight. There was a strange look in his eyes as he stared back at me. Clearly, he thought me insane. Well, he would have not been the first to think so. But I knew my own powers. I was sure of myself. I had seen men defeated many times, and always for the same reason. That only strengthened the central argument of my life. That intelligence, directed aright, always makes man the master of his fate. That evening, I called my Indian workers together in front of the plantation house, and I saw their faces go ashen with terror as I told them that the ants were coming. Then one of the men stepped forward. Blas, the foreman.
Senor, we have worked hard here for these 3 years, all of us. We have built the finest plantation in this district. We all share in it. It has been a home for all of us and our families. Now the ants come.
Yes, now the ants come.
These ditches we dug last year, they were for the ants?
They were for the ants.
If we moved our families across the river, the ants could not reach them.
That's right. Your families would be safe. And you?
The ants are mighty. We know what they can do. But we think that you are mightier. We will stay and fight against the ants with you.
I knew that the men would give me that answer. I counted on it. And suddenly I thought of the commissioner and wondered what he would say at such an unquestioning confidence. Would he still think I was insane? At least I knew he would not soon forget.
The days spent in warning all the plantations in my district. Sleep was out of the question for me all that night. I could think of only one thing. One man. Leinengen. One man who calmly evaluated his chances against a deadly menace, coolly decided he could win, and was willing to stake his life on it, to risk a horrible death for it. It was terrifying. And yet it was fascinating. And when dawn came, I knew that the fascination of that man was more than I could resist. That Leinengen's fight was drawing my mind, was drawing me back toward that plantation and death. And there was nothing I could do about it. I had to go back.
The second act of Suspense continues in 1 minute.
House cleaning too hot to handle in summer? Listen to this hot day special from Jet Bonami. There's a real cool way to shortcut household cleaning chores and get that cool, freshly house-cleaned look. It's the new white froth way to clean without water, even without rags. All you need is a can of new Jet Bonami and some Scott paper towels. No pails, no powders, no rags. Saves 2/3 of the work. Hands don't even get wet. Just spray Jet Bonami's magic white froth on glass, painted woodwork or doors, light switches, and porcelain. Then wipe dirt right off with soft, absorbent, but sturdy Scott towels. Surfaces come super clean and actually stay clean longer. Look for this Jet Speed Cleaning Team featured in your grocer's household department. And for cool, shortcut cleaning, for a cool you, get Jet Bonami and Scott towels. Buy them together, use them together. They're real clean-in cousins.
And now, we continue with Act 2 of Leinengen versus the Ants, starring William Conrad. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
It was 10 o'clock in the morning when I rounded the bend below Leinengen's plantation. I put in at the dock and tied up the launch. And then I saw him standing on the bank above me, arms folded, stubby cigar in his mouth, and a sardonic grin on his face.
Back for another warning, Commissioner?
No.
Back to stay a while, huh?
Yes. You don't seem very surprised.
I'm not.
You expected me?
I thought you'd be back. Come along, we'll get some horses. You'll want to ride around the plantation. Take a look at the defenses I've rigged.
Defenses? How have you had time?
I've always known that sooner or later the ants would come.
Oh, yes, I'd like to see the defenses.
And the ants? We'll be getting a glimpse of them before long, I should think.
Yes, and the ants. The defenses Leinengen had devised were quite impressive, surrounding 3 sides of the plantation like a huge horseshoe with a ditch 12 feet wide. The end of this ditch ran into the river, which formed the 4th side of the plantation. And at the upriver entrance to the ditch, Leinengen had constructed a dam by which river water could be diverted. A large hand wheel controlled the floodgate of the dam. As we approached the ditch and rode along it, I could see that it was nearly full.
How do you like my first line of defense, Commissioner?
Well, it's reassuring. Like a moat around a castle.
Unless the ants know how to build rafts, they won't reach the plantation. But this is the outer moat. There's a better one than this. Come along. We'll go up to the high ground where the buildings are. We can get a view from there.
Leinengen. I didn't see any women or children around the plantation, or any animals.
Yes, that's right. We moved them across the river.
Oh, then even you think that there's danger?
Not because of danger, Commissioner. Matter of efficiency.
Efficiency?
Cuts down on the efficiency of the men if they're worried about their families. Critical situations only become crises when oxen and women get excited. Here we are. See the ditch?
But it's much smaller than the other.
You've noticed how all the buildings are on this piece of high ground. This inner ditch surrounds them, and it's lined with concrete.
Yes, but even filled with water, this is no barrier. It's not big enough. Why, if the ants get this far,
they'll get no farther. This ditch wasn't built for water, Commissioner. You see the pipes leading into it? See those storage tanks on the hill?
Huh?
Gasoline. They can throw up a wall of flame. You can't bet they won't like that.
Oh, I dare say they won't.
Look, Commissioner. Over there on the horizon. Yes, there are your ants. Look at them.
It was a sight I'll never forget. Over the range of hills, as far as I could see, crept a darkening hem, ever longer and broader until the shadows spread across the entire slope, and then downward, uncannily swift. And all the grass and bushes on the entire slope were being mowed as by a giant sickle, leaving only the vast moving shadow, extending, deepening, and moving rapidly nearer.
They're a hideous lot, aren't they?
Oh, Leinengen, we can't last against that. Look at them. Why, they could fill your ditches with their corpses and still have enough to destroy every one of us. We've got to run for it.
No. They haven't gotten to us yet, and they never will. Come along. We'd best get back to the men.
The hostile army was approaching in perfect formation. No human battalions, however well drilled, could ever hope to rival the precision of that advance. Along a front that moved forward as uniformly as a straight line, the ants drew nearer and nearer to the water ditch. And as they approached, two outlying wings of the army detached themselves from the main body and started marching along the sides of the ditch, no doubt expecting at some point to find a crossing. And during this hour-long flanking movement, the main army remained still. Across the scant 12 feet of ditch I stared at them, and they seemed to stare back at me.
Act 3 of Suspense follows in 1 minute.
When your local station is affiliated with a network like the CBS radio network, it means that you and your kitchen, your office, your car, wherever you are, can cross boundaries with the speed of light. You're at the White House listening to the president as he speaks. You're in London, Paris, Rome, Moscow, and Tokyo as veteran CBS newsmen report at the scene of the news. You're in Hollywood with Amos and Andy and Stan Freberg. You're in New York with the stars on the Woolworth Hour. You've just come from a spot over the Atlantic as CBS newsman Douglas Edwards describes the sinking of an ocean queen. You're receiving an unparalleled education as a learned man informally discusses a great book on invitation to learning. You're closer to the finish line of the Kentucky Derby than most of the people at Churchill Downs. Through its affiliation with the CBS radio network, this station is helping its own efforts to bring you the best in radio broadcasting in your community.
And now, we continue with Act 3 of Leinengen versus the Ants, starring William Conrad. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Around 4 in the afternoon, the ant scouts having found no crossing, there was a stirring among the main army, and then an immense flood of ants, about 100 yards in width, commenced pouring in a glimmering black cataract down the far slope of the ditch. Thousands drowned instantly, but the rest began using the bodies as bridges. Leinengen immediately swung into action.
Toneo! Get to the dam, open the floodgate wider, get the water in the ditch moving faster.
Si, senor.
Look at them drowned by the thousands.
Yes, but they keep coming.
All right, men. Busy with the shovels now. Dump some sand and clods on them. See how they like that. You with the petrol sprinklers, start pumping. That's it. I don't like it, Commissioner. They don't like it a bit. Look at them.
Yes, but how about the ones on the far side of the ditch? Whole clumps of them rolling into the water. The rest are using them for bridges.
Yes. No, what's keeping Toneo? He should be at the dam by now.
Senor, the ants are crossing the ditch on the clouds of earth. If you climb up on this side even now.
Yes, I see them. Use your shovels on them, men. Clod the crawlers. What's the matter?
Senor, they crawl up on my shovel. They crawl in my eye.
Into the petrol, you idiot. Douse your paws in the petrol. Don't stop now, the rest of you. Drop them.
We cannot hold them back. We must run.
Run now and you're doomed, every one of you. You've got to fight them back. Use your shovels. You've said it. You stop. Keep at it, now. Keep at it. Leo got the floodgates up and the water's running faster now. Yes. Look at the ants. They can't hold their own against the current now. They're being washed away. Faster with the shovels. Look at them, Commissioner. We've beat them. We've beat them.
It was true. Leinengen had won at least the first round. The floodgates were left open to forestall any night crossing. I allowed myself to hope that the ants would go on, would pass us by. But when the dawn came, the dark blanket was still there, motionless across the ditch. And then we noticed a feverish activity on the other side of the plantation. Here, a grove of tamarind trees lined the far end of the ditch, and every tree swarmed with the crawling insects. But instead of eating the leaves, they were merely gnawing through the stems so that a thick green shower fell steadily to the ground. Well, it looks as if it's feeding time for our friends, huh?
Boss.
Senor.
Have all the petrol pumps brought here and get everyone over here except the lookouts on the other side, and then pass out the shovels.
Si, senor.
Are you going to deprive them of a meal?
A meal?
Aren't they cutting down the leaves for food?
Wish they were.
What do you mean?
I said if they wanted to get across, they'd have to have rafts. And that's just what they've got. Those leaves are the rafts.
Even as he spoke, the leaves went tumbling down the far bank by the thousands. The current drew them away from the bank, and each leaf carried several ants.
Don't worry. As long as you keep spraying them and shoveling dirt on their raft, they can't land
But,
now.
senor, there will be too many.
It's true, look. More leaves in the ditch all the time, while they'll have a solid carpet to walk across in a minute.
Not so fast, Commissioner. I've still got a trick up my sleeve for them.
The water. The ditch is drying up.
Yes, of course it's drying up. That's the plan. Those are the orders I sent to the dam.
Are you mad? As soon as it's empty, what's to prevent the ants? Look, the water's way down. It's almost dry. They'll be able to come across the bottom.
They'll not make it if the man at the dam carries out his orders. He should have opened the gates again by now.
To flood the ants?
Yes, right.
What a chance to take if anything should happen.
Here comes the water. Now we'll give the crawlers in the ditch a good ride out to the river. Yes, there, that. Look at it go!
Leinengen's tactics were successful. At first, the violent flow of water raced through the ditch, overwhelming leaves and ants and sweeping them along. 3 times the ditch was emptied. 3 times the ants raced across the bottom, and 3 times the water, arriving just in time, carried them away. But the 4th time, as the water lowered nearly to the bottom of the ditch, we waited in vain for the rushing waters. And then...
Senor! What's the matter? What's gone wrong at the dam?
The ants. Just as the man at the dam lowered the water almost to the bottom, the ants attacked the dam. Before he could open the floodgate, he was almost surrounded. He ran. The ants kept coming. They're across the ditch.
Leinengen stood motionless, absorbing the news of his defeat without a word. Then he raised his pistol and fired 3 shots. The prearranged signal for all the men to retreat instantly to the second line of defense, the concrete-lined ditches 2 miles from the point of invasion. Soon after we arrived there, the natives commenced straggling in, silently. Leinengen waited until all of them had gathered, and then he spoke to them.
Well, lads, we've won the first round, lost the second. But we'll smash the crawlers yet. Anyone who thinks otherwise can draw his pay and push off. There are rafts enough on the river and plenty of time still to reach them. You stay then. Good. Thank you, lads. And you, Commissioner?
I can't persuade you to give up the fight.
You cannot.
Well, then I'd say too.
Yes, I knew you wouldn't.
Senor, if you or the ants have reached the ditch.
You're trying to get across?
No, senor, not.
I didn't think they would. There's plenty of food out there for them. Food I've spent 3 years in raising. It ought to last them until morning anyway.
Yes, we were safe for the moment. But the next morning, the black swarm was solid around us, and their shock troops were hard at work. They were dropping shreds of bark and twigs and leaves into the petrol-filled ditches, forming a floating bridge across the surface of the liquid. Leinengen stood silently watching this operation, and I could see a grudging admiration in his face. Then, after several hours, the attack came. Down the ditch they poured, thousands of them, and across the bridge of twigs, rapidly approached the inner side. Leinengen sat motionless, watching them. Leinengen, for the love of God, don't sit there like a statue. They'll be on us in a moment.
Let them fill it first. Now. All right. Everyone back from the ditch. Go on. Floss, hand me the torch. Now, we'll see how our friends like a little heat around them.
Flames from the ditch shot into the air, devouring the ants by the millions. It was some time before the petrol burned down to the bed of the ditch, but when it did, the devils came back for more. Again, Leinengen fired the ditch to destroy them, and still again they came on. But at each successive firing, the task of the ants grew easier because of the film of ash which now covered the petrol. And as they returned to the assault time after time, a slow, sickening horror crept into my mind. I looked quickly at Leinengen and then at the gasoline tanks. He read my gaze and nodded slowly.
That's right, Commissioner. We could hold them off forever if our supply of petrol was unlimited. But it isn't. We've got enough to fill the ditch once more.
And then?
Pickle! Pickle, come back! Now the idiot jumped the ditch. He'll never make it to the river. Pickle! Come back!
Merciful God, he...
Too late. Plus, keep the men back with your gun. Don't let anyone else try for the river.
Leinengen, isn't there any way at all? We've got to do
There
something.
must
We can't...
be a way. There must be. Yes.
What is it?
We'll flood the whole plantation.
Flood, but how?
We've got to close the floodgate at the dam. That'll do it.
You're mad. The dam is nearly 2 miles away. 2 miles of ants.
Lads, listen to me. Listen, lads. I'm proud of you. Now, there's still a chance. By shutting the floodgates in the dam and flooding the whole plantation from the river. The moment I'm over the ditch, set fire to it. That'll allow time for the flood to wash away the ants. Then all you have to do is wait for me.
Why, it's impossible. You can't get to the dam, let alone get back.
That's where you're wrong, Commissioner. I'll get there, and I'll get back. Take care of things while I'm gone, huh?
I watched him as he calmly pulled on high leather boots, drew gauntlets over his hands, and stuffed the spaces between breeches and boots, gauntlets and arms, with petrol-soaked rags. He shielded his eyes with close-fitting mosquito goggles and plugged his nostrils and ears with cotton. Then the natives drenched his clothes with petrol. Leinengen was ready, and as he stood calmly surveying the course...
Ready for the run, I realized that this was as it should be. I, Leinengen, would meet the ants and defeat them or be defeated by them. Leinengen versus the ants. I ran in long, equal strides with one thought, one sensation in my being. I must get through. I dodged all trees and shrubs except for the split seconds my soles touched the ground. The ants would have no opportunity to alight on me. And I ran on. I was halfway to the dam before I felt ants onto my clothes and a few on my face. I struck at them mechanically, scarcely conscious of their bites. And the dam drew toward me slowly. The distance drew less and less. Finally, only 100 yards away. And 50. And then I was there. I gripped the ant-covered wheel, but hardly had I seized it when a horde of ants flowed over my hands and arms. I strained, and slowly the wheel turned, and turned more. The floodgate was swinging slowly shut, and then it was shut, and the water was rising behind the breakwater, closer to the top, and closer. And then it was spilling over. The flooding of the plantation had begun, and I let go of the wheel. For the first time, I realized that I was coated from head to foot with the fiends. Tongues of fire stabbed at me, bit through my flesh. And I almost fainted with the pain as I ran, knocking ants from my body, brushing them from my bloody face. And then one bit me just below the rim of my goggles, and I managed to tear it away. But the agony of the bite and its venom drilled into the eye nerves. And I saw now through circles of fire into a milky mist. I was almost blinded. But I knew that if I tripped and fell... I ran on, my heart pounding as if it would burst, blood roaring in my ears, a giant's fist battering my lungs. Then I could see dimly that wall of flame at the ditch, but it was too far away. I could not last half that distance. And I stumbled. Then I fell. I felt myself being swarmed over, devoured, and I tried to rise in great weight, and then I remembered 6 minutes, then nothing but bones. I couldn't let that happen to me. I couldn't die like that. To my feet. Drag myself forward toward the flame in the ditch. The ring of flame. Closer now. Only a little farther. 10 steps.
It seemed we had waited for hours. Then all at once, through the blazing ring around us, an apparition hurtled and fell full length on the ground. Leinengen, alive with ants, unconscious, with blazing eyes and lacerated face, we rushed to him, stripped off his clothes, and tore at the ants that covered him. His body seemed almost one open wound. In one place, I could see a white bone. Later, as the curtain of flame lowered, I looked out where that blanket of ants had been and saw only a vast expanse of water covering the entire plantation. The ants were gone, drowned, and Leinengen had won. He lay on his bed, his body swathed from head to foot with bandages. But Leinengen was still alive.
Commissioner, everything in order?
They're gone. The ants are gone.
I told you I'd come back. Even if I am a bit streamlined.
And then this amazing man grinned, shut his eyes, and quietly fell asleep.
Suspense, in which William Conrad starred in William N. Robeson's production of Leinengen versus the Ants, adapted by Robert Reif from the original story by Carl Stevenson. Listen again next week when we return with Man from Tomorrow, starring Frank Lovejoy. Another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. Supporting Mr. Conrad in Leinengen versus the Ants were Ben Wright, Lou Merrill, Donald Buca, and Don Diamond.
What has compulsory sex education done to Sweden? Is that country better or worse since the schools took over sex education? In the current issue of Look magazine, you'll find some of the answers to this provocative question. Would you agree with the Swedish mother who says in Look that if a mother cannot trust her daughter to use her own judgment by the time she leaves high school, she hasn't raised her properly, and that it's too late to worry then? Why do the Swedes teach youngsters about birth control? Would you say that discussing sex openly is healthier than the American practice of suppressing it? Read this issue of Look and find out why Swedish young people rarely see the inside of a church. As an American, you may be surprised by the seeming easy virtue of present-day Sweden. But don't make your mind up about it until you've gotten the whole story on sex education in Sweden. It's in Look magazine, the issue with the beautiful Swedish girl on the cover. Get Look today. This is the CBS Radio Network.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
Those who know about such things tell us that an engine delivers little more than 50% of the energy potential of its fuel. The rest is dissipated in waste. Waste motion, waste energy, gases, ash. The same can be said of man. Has been said, in fact. Getting and spending, we lay waste our powers. If an average man were trained to use his faculties to the utmost, he could be a superman. If a superior man were so trained, what could he not accomplish? The answer is implied in the upcoming story. Listen. Listen, then, as Mr. and Mrs. Frank Lovejoy star in Man from Tomorrow, the last radio play written by the late Irving Reese, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
American folklore is filled with legends about men who were as tough as nails, like the one about Pecos Bill, who went out for a walk one day. Unfortunately, a big 10-foot rattler crossed his path. I say, unfortunately, for the rattler. You see, Bill was a mighty fair fighter. Why, he gave that rattler the first 3 bites just to make things even. Then he waded into that reptile and he everlastingly thrashed the poison out of him. By and by, that old rattler yelled for mercy and admitted that when it come to fighting, Bill started where he left off. Yes, that was Pecos Bill, a legendary American. Folklore belongs to every nation's legendary past, and I guess we Americans have our share of some tall ones. Like the one about... but we'll have to save that one for the next time we travel your way. See you then. And now, Man from Tomorrow, starring Mr. and Mrs. Frank Lovejoy. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Even in these days of so-called full employment, you'd be surprised how few job opportunities come up for an ex-jet jockey. So it was with more than passing interest that I read this ad while I was scanning the classified section of the Sunday paper. It said, wanted, ex-jet pilot. Unmarried, without family obligations, must be in perfect health and prepared for rigid tests. Successful candidate will receive good pay and be given opportunity to contribute to daring experiment in world betterment. Apply Tuesday at 10 a.m., Science Associates, 126 West Street. Well, Science Associates, you just got yourself a boy. It turned out there were quite a few boys with the same idea. By 10 o'clock Tuesday morning, nearly 50 of us were crowded in a windowless, air-conditioned room in the windowless, ultra-modern building of Science Associates.
Oh, hi. Hi, Major.
Well, hi, Randy.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. Some of the faces were familiar, guys that had been in the Air Force with me in Korea and afterward. We sat there and waited. An hour, 2 hours, nothing happened.
I don't know about the rest of you guys, but this place is beginning to give me claustrophobia. I'm getting out. Open that door. Hey, it's locked. Hey, we're locked in here.
Even before this had a chance to sink in, another door opened on the far side of the room. A guy with a white mask on his face came in carrying a Thompson submachine gun.
Hit the giant!
Everybody flattened on the floor except me. I made a dash for the man in the mask, but he disappeared as quickly as he'd come.
Hey, Major, how come you didn't hit the floor? You tired of living?
Well, he was shooting blanks.
He was shooting...
Couldn't you see that? There weren't any bullets chipping anything. Besides, I knew it was a gag from the way he held that machine gun. When those babies are loaded with live ammo, you got to fire them from the waist.
Well, I don't like this. Come on, guys, let's crash the door and get out of this rat trap.
Oh, say that, Randy. That won't do you any good. That door's as thick as a bank vault. And then something else. Thick, black, acrid smoke pouring out of the air conditioning vent. And a sound from somewhere. Of an airplane diving. Every pilot remembers with horror the smell of burning oil from a plane out of control. It hit us way back and deep down, and some of the guys got panicky. And then the blowers reversed and the smoke was sucked out quickly.
Attention, please.
A loudspeaker cut in from nowhere.
For the past 2 hours, you have been under close observation as a necessary part of this test. You were warned in advance the test would be rigid. As you file out past the guard, you will receive a token compensation for your time and discomfort. We now ask you all to leave, except the man who ran for the gunner. The door is now open. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Major, looks like you got the job.
Also looks like I'm going to shove it right back in their faces.
Well, I don't blame you. Well, so long.
So long, Randy. Take it easy. For a moment, I was alone in the empty room, and then an inner door opened, and I wasn't so sure I wanted to shove the job in their faces. Not in this face, anyway.
Your name, please.
Well. I hardly expected to find a blonde at the bottom of this.
You will come with me, please.
Well, I'll do nothing of the sort. Now, don't give me orders, Blondie. I want to see the guy responsible for this, and then I'm getting out of here.
I take it you have lost interest in contributing to world betterment.
Oh, yes, that's what it said in the ad. Well, whatever your lofty purpose, I don't like cold-blooded cruelty.
Unfortunately, we cannot allow personal feelings to interfere with our objectives.
Well, then your objectives are wrong.
You will be better able to judge that when you know what they are.
Well, I don't think I'm interested. And if I may indulge a personal feeling, callousness is unattractive enough in a man, but in an attractive girl...
Neither your feelings nor mine will matter in this project, Major. I believe you were addressed.
It's just plain Mr. Kentman. The war's been over for some time, Miss...
Dr. Frost.
That's appropriate.
I beg your pardon.
No, nothing. I sometimes mutter to myself. The last thing I said to you, Doctor, is that the war is over.
It If it is possible for you to unlock your quite superior intelligence from emotional reactions common to schoolgirls and housewives, my senior colleague, Professor Baird, and I will attempt to convince you on the only basis that should appeal to the mature mind. Facts.
Well, you go ahead and try, but I doubt you'll be successful.
The second act of Suspense continues in 1 minute.
This is Johnny Baker with Communism on the Spot. The communist attitude toward faith in God is based on the statement by Karl Marx that religion is the opiate of the people. In keeping with his view, the Soviets established as a primary aim the destruction of all religious faiths. Communism can't tolerate religion, which preaches that there is a supreme being who is higher than any human authority. For communism itself is a political religion whose high priests are the dictatorial rulers of the Soviet state. They'll settle for nothing less than total control of the lives of their subjects. They're not only concerned with their victims' bodies and minds, they seek equal domination over their hearts and souls.
And now, we continue with Act 2 of Man from Tomorrow, starring Mr. and Mrs. Frank Lovejoy. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
It was a big, aseptically bare room with an uncluttered desk at one end. Behind the desk was the cartoonist conception of an egghead. A thin, bespectacled man whose eyes were so intelligently alive that I couldn't look away from them long enough to mark his other features. This was Professor Baird, keeper of the facts.
You are asking yourself why we limited our appeal to former jet pilots. Simple. Only one man in 10,000 was able to qualify mentally and physically for jet training. The Air Force, therefore, indirectly performed the first of our processes of elimination. Fact. Additional eliminations due to flunkouts, mortality in training, and combat brings the total to 1 in 20,000. Fact. The standards we applied during the 2 hours in which we observed your every action and reaction raises the mathematical incidence of your sensory acuity to approximately 1 in 100,000.
I'm flattered.
You will have greater reason to be if our experiment proves successful. You will be the only man on Earth possessed of your powers. You will be the man from tomorrow.
How do you propose to go about that?
We will first show you how we trained other individuals. Dr. Frost, will you proceed with the demonstration?
Yes, Professor. Come in, Mr. Logan. Mr. Logan, have you ever been in this part of the laboratories before?
No.
Would you describe it, please?
It's a rectangular room, 40 by 20. The ceiling is 18.5 feet high. There's a desk 12 feet from me, slightly to my right. There are 2 people seated at it. One has just risen.
That will be all. Thank you, Mr. Logan.
Well, Mr. Kentman.
Well, it would be very impressive if any schoolboy with normal vision couldn't do as well.
Agreed. But Mr. Logan is totally blind.
Looking back now, I can hardly believe my own impressions. The blind man was followed by a deaf mute, then a paraplegic who lost all sense of touch and smell. Their demonstrations were incredible.
Not one of these persons possessed physical senses above the average, Mr. Kentman. The deprivation of one sense or another, in the case of the blind or deaf man, stimulated nature's desire to compensate for the loss.
But what are you trying to prove?
That man has powers even now that are beyond his comprehension. We wish to explore those powers. Suppose one nearly perfect man with superior sensory perception to begin with could develop the extension of his 5 senses to the maximum degree we've just observed. What do you think would happen?
I don't know.
Neither do we. But it is our conviction that this man would also acquire a new sense, a 6th sense, that would endow him with a power never dreamed of before. Don't you think it's a dimension worth exploring?
Maybe. But how could anybody accomplish it?
Training. By producing the circumstances that surround the blind man, the deaf man, the handicapped. You would have to agree to cut yourself off from the outside world for 3 years. You would spend 6 months living in a pitch-dark laboratory. You would sleep, eat, function in a world of darkness.
Various sound devices will be used to train and measure your hearing responses. After that, 6 months will be devoted to simulating the world of the deaf mute, and so on.
You will be paid $20,000 at the end of the 3 years. All the necessities of living will be provided during that time. Then a test will be made, and if our predictions are realized, you will be signed for an additional 5 years at $20,000 per year. Dr. Frost will be in charge of the training program. Do you wish to undertake it?
Well, that's a pretty serious move. I'd like to think about it.
You have all the facts, Mr. Kentman. We would like a decision now.
I think feeling might enter into my considerations, Doctor. Is that what you're afraid of?
Afraid? Fear is merely an emotion, Mr. Kentman. I have learned to control all my emotions.
I wonder.
I beg your pardon?
I was muttering again, but what I meant to say is I agree to undertake the experiment. I was led into a pitch-dark room, blacker than the blackest night. It was to be my home for 6 months. It had a bed, bathroom, closets. All I had to do was to find them. I won't waste time telling you what that was like. Just close your eyes tight and try to find your way around a room that's familiar to you, and you'll get the idea. I was still stumbling around 3 days later when I reported for my training with Dr. Frost in the adjoining laboratory, which was even blacker, if possible. Oh.
Are you hurt?
You wouldn't care if I broke a leg.
There's a chair nearby.
I know. I just fell over it.
We can begin as soon as you're settled.
Lucky it's so dark, I don't have to apologize for wearing my pajamas.
Don't you like dressing?
I love it when I can find my pants.
Today's exercise will be recognition of pure tones. Here is an example. That is 1,000 cycles, or 1,000 vibrations per second, stripped of all harmonics. Now, what would you say that was?
Oh, 1,100.
It is 1,500 cycles. Now, please tell me when you begin to hear the next tone and what the frequency is.
I couldn't make the slightest dent in that glacial reserve. I tried to match her at her own game for a while, but she loved it, and I'm human. Anyway, at the end of the 6 months, I could ramble through the whole place and never stub a toe. It was amazing how you learned to sense things in the dark and what your ears could do. 800. Out. 4,500. Out.
Good. Excellent. Mr. Kentman, your threshold of hearing is 20 decibels greater than the average ear.
Dr. Frost, I can't see you, but do I detect a note of enthusiasm in your voice?
Satisfaction, perhaps, Mr. Kentman. The experiment so far...
Dr. Frost, have you ever let yourself go?
Mr. Kentman, I am not nearly so naive as you assume, nor have any of your innuendos or mumblings for the past 6 months escaped me. I told you in the beginning that neither your personal feelings nor mine would have any bearing on this project.
You haven't answered my question.
I am fully aware of the nature of biological stresses.
In a scientific way, of course.
What distinguishes man from the animal is his understanding of these stresses, but mostly his control.
The control is a traffic cop with a stop sign, Doctor, but eventually the traffic has to go somewhere.
I can understand the frustration of your masculine ego, especially in this enforced loneliness of the experiment.
Oh, thank you.
We have only begun. We have 2 years or more to go. The first phase is highly successful. As a scientist, I am very pleased.
Strange, Doc. My hearing is so good, but I have yet to hear your heartbeat.
Act 3 of Suspense follows in 1 minute. Do you know the Social Security benefits to which you will be entitled when you separate from the service and take a civilian job? Here's a tip from Social Security.
Here's one do-it-yourself project that costs you nothing and won't end up in cuts and bruises. The Social Security Administration wants each one of you that pays Social Security taxes to check up on your account, to make sure you are getting credit for every dollar that's coming to you. With records of millions of people to maintain, it's a pretty big job to catch an error that you or your employer might make in reporting your wages and income. You can help by checking every 3 years to see that your record is correct. How? Easy. Simply by mailing a special postcard. Just write to Social Security, Department 15, Hollywood 28, California, and ask for Form 7004. Mail it. And in a couple of weeks, you'll receive a notice that will verify the spelling of your name, your Social Security number, and the wages credited to you for each of the past 3 years. Do it tomorrow. You'll be glad that you did.
And now, we continue with Act 3 of Man from Tomorrow, starring Mr. and Mrs. Frank Lovejoy. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Now that my hearing was phenomenal, they turned off my ears. They devised some newfangled earplugs, and I began 6 months of silence. 6 months of being deaf as a doorknob. Deaf, but not quite deaf. Because I began to see sounds, to feel sounds like waves against my skin. I began to hear with my body and with my pores. Have you ever touched a sound? Have you ever seen thunder? You get so you look at sounds and almost see the waves they make trembling in the air. Have you ever tried silence? Try not saying a word, not uttering a syllable for an hour, a day. I tried it for 6 months, until all the unsaid words piled up inside my head. They clung like unborn sounds at the back of my throat. Whoever said silence is golden never felt the lump of lead that accumulates inside you. Silence. And then the 6 months ended. The day came when she removed the fancy earplugs, and the little canyon I'd been living in widened into a continent.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Nod to me or raise your finger when you can hear the sound of my voice.
I heard you coming down the hall a minute ago.
Were the plugs defective?
Oh, no. Incidentally, I take that it's all right for me to talk now?
Yes, of course.
Have I been a good boy? Have I done everything that you've wanted?
So much so, Mr. Kentman, that we're giving you a few days' rest before we begin your training for taste and touch.
Well, can I do anything I want?
Anything. Within reason.
Well, then, I'd like to have a drink. And strangely enough, I'd like to have you join me.
Perhaps that can be arranged.
Oh, that wonderful sound of the clink of glasses. And I cannot tell you how dull a piano sounds when you only look at it.
You missed the sound of music, then?
Oh, yes, music. And the sound of a woman's voice. Or maybe they're the same thing. Oh, incidentally, Dr. Frost, when I say woman, I even include female doctors.
Kind of you.
By the way, do you have a first name? Or are you only a title followed by Frost and followed by a long string of degrees?
My first name is Jessica.
Jessica? That's more like it. Jessica. Jessica. Boy, after all that silence, it's good just to say a woman's name.
Until the experiment is completely over, Mr. Kentman, it had better remain Dr. Frost.
Well, okay, Dr. Jessica Frost plus degrees. I give you a toast. To you.
You've been very cooperative about all this, Mr. Kentman. And I want you to know that I really like you very much.
Well, now, I'm sure the experiment is a success. I've finally developed a sixth sense.
Oh?
I distinctly heard a lovely lady saying, I like you very much, and it couldn't possibly have been you. I rather enjoyed the touch test. It was one area I'd never realized held such hidden possibilities. After a few months, my fingertips knew the difference between crystal and diamond. I could tell if you had a suntan merely by touching your cheek. As for the taste test, food suddenly became a symphony concert. Sourness had many degrees, and sweetness had a range as wide as the spectrum of a rainbow. And then all of my highly developed senses brought on a new perception, something over and beyond and added to the rest. By the time my training was finished, I knew I had acquired a knowledge beyond knowledge.
Sit down, Mr. Kentman.
Thank you.
Your period of training has been completed. You have passed the final test, and we have decided to retain you. Now, will you sign the contract, please, Mr. Kentman? It's the arrangement as agreed. $20,000 a year for the next 5 years. Mr. Kentman, is anything wrong?
Oh, no. No, there's nothing wrong.
Mr. Kentman, what are you doing?
Well, obviously, I'm not signing it.
But why?
Because I'm afraid.
What is there to be afraid of?
Myself. And what I know now, and what I'm going to know in the future, what you and Dr. Frost may ask me to do.
Afraid to make contributions to scientific progress?
Oh, I respect science. Progress, I'm for that, too, but see, I can see beyond the microscopes and the telescopes and all your theories and experiments. And I don't see one important thing. I don't see happiness, only fear and falling buildings. That's what I see coming out of my super sense.
And you'd waste this great talent of yours. Throw it away, turn your back on progress?
I didn't say that. I'll look for a new kind of progress. Slicing an atom sideways or sending a phony moon up into God's skies, these aren't the things people are crying for. Not this year, next year, or ever. They want security, dignity, and a little peace of mind.
I suppose, then, you think that all our work is to end in death and destruction.
It might.
That's not fair.
Isn't it? But what happens if I sign the contract? Who makes the decision?
These are things I can't honestly answer.
I know, and that's what I mean. It might be out of your hands then. Governments would pay billions for me. Our own country would guard me like Fort Knox. I'd be the most valuable thing in the world alive, and even more valuable for some people dead. A thing, not a man. No, that's not going to be for me. Not that way.
All this work. Everything we've done doesn't mean anything, then. It's all for nothing.
Well, I don't know. I'm sorry. I guess you picked the wrong man for the job.
What are you going to do now, Mr. Kentman?
Pack my things and go away. I don't know where. It doesn't really matter. Jessica, I probably won't see you again before I go. Thank you for everything. I'm sorry to let you down like this, but... Well, so long. Well, that is that.
Oh, I was just going to...
Try and talk me out of it?
No. Yes, I was. But not anymore.
I'm glad you changed your mind.
Will you tell me something?
What?
What are you going to do?
I don't know yet. It's kind of funny. I'm going out of here almost the way I came in. One suitcase, one hat, one coat. The only difference, I've got all the knowledge of the world up here. I don't know what I'll do with it. I haven't been able to think, but clearly. I know one thing, though. There are a lot of things I can try.
What?
Ever hear of cancer, heart disease, common cold, a dozen other things man doesn't know anything about?
Yes.
Might not be bad for a start.
No, that's not bad for a start. Do you think you might need someone to help you?
Yes, I might.
I've talked to Professor Baird. I think perhaps he understands.
Does he?
Yes. Oh, it's a little uncomfortable for a woman. I'm not supposed to say anything until you do. And you already know what I'm thinking, don't you?
Well, let's be old-fashioned. I love you. Will you come with me?
Yes. I love you, too.
I know. Come on, let's go.
Suspense, in which Mr. and Mrs. Frank Lovejoy starred in William N. Robeson's production of Man from Tomorrow, written for radio by Irving Reese. Listen. Listen again next week when we return with another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. Supporting Mr. Lovejoy in Man from Tomorrow were Mrs. Lovejoy, Joan Banks as Dr. Frost, John White as Professor Baird, Peter Leeds as Randy, and Norm Alton as Mr. Logan.
Suspense has been brought to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
Suspense need not always be a matter of murder. There can be romance in the suspense. And there can be fun in the suspense of how on earth can girl get rid of boy. There's a little of each in the upcoming story. There's murder, too, if you agree that the emotional starvation of a wife can lead to the murder of a marriage. There's the boy gets girl angle, but which boy, you will never guess until the end. And there is, we feel, a lot of good, clean, bloodless fun. Listen then as Victor Jory stars in Old Army Buddy, which begins in exactly 1 minute.
Political shenanigans haven't changed much from the Old Army Buddy, starring Mr. Victor Jory. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Funny thing how long it takes people to spot a phony. I'll give you an example. Frederick Carlton Haskell, foreign correspondent, author, newscaster, and lion of the lecture halls. You read his dispatches from New York.
The Prime Minister assured me today during a 2-hour chat at the Foreign Office that no further concessions could be expected until the present attitude of the pressure powers has
You've heard his pear-shaped tones on your radio.
I do not think it is too much to expect that the campaign will result in some astounding and radical changes by the time the final tally is made next November.
Have you any idea what he's saying? But then what difference does it make? When Frederick Carlton Haskell carelessly tosses his British trench coat over his Harris tweeds, he's America's ideal of the perfect foreign correspondent. Middle-aged ladies mob him at Middle Western lectures, and book clubs plead for the privilege of publishing his pronouncements. Yes, he got quite a figure in public, does Frederick Carlton Haskell. In private, well, that's another matter. Those of us who, for one reason or another, have been close to him for enough years have seen through him for a long, long time. I, for one, and his lovely wife, Anne, for another.
In the Shadow of the Kremlin by Frederick Carlton Haskell. Dedication. To my wife, without whose steadfast devotion, inspiring confidence, and daily concern, these pages could not have been written. Preface. At the outset, I wish to make it clear that during...
Fred, I want to talk to you.
Later, Anne, I've just started to dictate my new book.
Fred, what I've got to say is more important than the new book.
Nothing is more important, Anne. I am therefore the man best qualified to bring you a complete and unbiased report of the conditions today in the shadow of the Kremlin.
What took so long, Fred? We spent only 6 days in Paris, for in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower. In the shadow of Big Ben took only 3 days in London.
The Soviet picture is vastly more complicated. I had to give it at least 10 days.
When did your plane get in?
4:30 this morning. Miserable trip, headwinds all the way, made all the stops. Shannon, Iceland, Gander.
Why didn't you let me know when you got home?
No sense of waking you up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and anyway, I wanted to get started on this piece while the impressions were still fresh in my mind. I've got a deadline to meet.
Well, I know.
Have to keep going, Stand still and you start going backward.
Well, you've got to stand still for this, Fred. I want a divorce.
You must be kidding.
No, Fred. I've been thinking about it for a long time. And while you were away this last trip, I made up my mind. I just want out.
But why? You've got everything a woman could ask for. You're young and beautiful, the wife of a famous man. Why, you're the envy of every woman in America. What more do you want?
A divorce.
Impossible.
I don't want to be ugly about it, but I will be if you force me to.
You have no grounds for a divorce.
Oh, yes, I have.
What?
Infidelity.
Absurd. I've never looked at another woman since I first met you.
Nevertheless, you're not in love with me. You're in love with someone else.
Who?
Yourself.
Anne, that comes close to being an insult.
It's the truth.
In your opinion. Certainly no judge would concur. No, Anne, it's out of the question. I will not disillusion the American people. They believe in me, and so they believe in you and in our marriage. In a way, we are a simple...
Oh, rubbish.
Why do you always have to create some kind of unpleasantness just when I'm in the middle of a job that requires all of my faculties? It's most inconsiderate, Anne. Really inconsiderate.
I'm sorry if it's inconvenient, inconsiderate, and unpleasant. But I want a divorce.
Anne, you're trying my patience. Now, if you'll excuse me, I really must get on with the book. I'm facing a deadline,
Too bad you refuse to face facts.
Had the reader been so fortunate as to stand in the shoes of this reporter on the Red Square 2 weeks ago, he would have realized the tremendous forces which have been unleashed.
The second act of Suspense continues in view of Old Army Buddy, starring Victor Jory. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. I learned of this newest development in the career of Frederick Carlton Haskell the same afternoon in the tap room of the Press Club. The usual regulars were at the bar. The conversation was pleasant, aimless, mostly shop talk. And then the great man made his entrance like Prince Philip inspecting a cattle show.
Well, boys, it certainly is good to be back home again. No matter what they say, there's no country like the good old USA.
You been away?
That's right. Moscow this time, and boys, I'm here to tell you the...
So what else is new?
Well, if you don't want to hear what is interesting...
The conversation began again, and the great Frederick Carlton Haskell stood there with egg on his face, and the backs of his colleagues turned toward him. Then he saw me.
Jerry, my old Army buddy, am I glad to see you.
Hello, Fred. You've been to Moscow, huh?
Affirmative. Just got in this morning, and I've already finished 2 chapters of the book.
You don't waste any time, do you?
Can't afford to. Got to keep going. Can't stop.
Yeah, I know. Stand still. You start going backwards.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. Jerry, tell me something. What's the matter with those guys? Don't they want to know what's going on in the world?
Jealous, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose that's it.
Contemptuous would have been a better word. There wasn't a man at the bar whose toes hadn't been trampled by Frederick Carlton Haskell as he shouldered his way to the head of the line, including me. I had every bit as much reason as the others for hating Haskell's guts. But I also had a much bigger reason for being his old Army buddy.
Now, you are my friend, aren't you, Jerry?
I hope so.
Something's come up, and I feel you're the only one I can discuss it with.
Flattered.
Let's go with that table in the corner.
Okay.
Or I wouldn't want any of those big ears at the bar to hear this one.
No. All right, Fred, what's in your mind?
Jerry, I'm worried about Anne.
What? She's sick?
I'm afraid so, Jerry. Very sick. Mentally sick.
What makes you think so?
She wants to divorce me.
No, why?
I ask you, why? Haven't I given her everything? Clothes first, jewelry, a beautiful apartment.
Certainly have, pal.
A woman would have to be crazy to want to throw these things over.
Well, it depends on who she's throwing them over for, though.
What do you mean?
Who's the other man?
There's no other man.
How do you know?
Did you ask her?
No, it never occurred to me, but how could she possibly be interested in any other
I
man?
don't know. Women sometimes do the darndest thing. Hey, let me ask you something, Fred.
Why?
Do you love Anne?
What's that got to do
Did
with
you
it?
ever love her?
Oh, look, Army buddy, let's not confuse the issue. The trouble with women is they expect the honeymoon to go on forever. A man's got work to do. Hand holding in the moonlight just doesn't buy any square-cut diamonds, you know?
Hand in the moonlight is a lot warmer.
What do you mean?
Never mind. What are you going to do about this?
I'm going to take her to the best psychiatrist in town, no matter how much it costs. The poor girl needs help.
That she does.
Meantime, Jerry, not a word about this to anyone.
Of course not.
Thanks, old Army buddy. Thanks a lot.
That you, Fred?
Yes, Anne?
Will you be home for dinner?
Yes, we'll have to work. Just have Stella bring me a tray in the study.
All right.
However, before I get back to the desk,
Yes?
I've been thinking about our conversation this morning, and I've come to some conclusions.
Yes, Fred?
I've made an appointment for you tomorrow with Dr. Zlotny.
The psychiatrist?
Best man in New York. What's so funny?
Oh, your conclusion. You think I'm crazy.
Well, now, hardly that. Let's just say that you're disturbed. Your sense of values is out of adjustment. I'm sure you won't require a very long analysis, but believe me, Anne, you do need help.
Fred, all I need is a divorce.
Now, you see, you just don't make any sense. Just like that, you want a divorce. Now, if there was another man, I could understand.
Oh, but there is.
There is?
Yes.
You didn't tell me?
You didn't ask me.
Who is this cad?
A man. Oh, a man.
Well, we'll see if he's a man. You get him on the phone now. You tell him to come over here right now. Oh, no, that'll throw me behind in my schedule. Make it tomorrow. Tell him to be here tomorrow at 6.
Hello?
Hello, Jerry. This is your old Army buddy.
Oh, hello, Fred.
Well, pal, you were right.
About what?
Anne, there is another man.
Who is it?
She refused to tell me. But I have ordered her to have him here tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.
You think that's wise, Fred?
Of course it's wise. When she sees the two of us together in the same room, what chance will the poor idiot have? He's probably some crew-cut Madison Avenue type, or a Hollywood actor with long eyelashes. I'm not afraid of competition, Jerry. Never was. I'll make an idiot out of the idiot.
This I'd like to see.
Well, come on over then. It's all in the family, and you're a part of the family, old Army buddy.
Act 3 of Suspense follows in 1 minute. We continue with Act 3 of Old Army Buddy, starring Victor Jory. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Following evening, I witnessed the historic meeting between the great Frederick Carlton Haskell and the man who had stolen his wife's love. Whatever Freddie was expecting, it certainly wasn't this. A tall Texan going to fat, his sparse hair plastered across his bald face, his hands as big as hams, his face as flat as Pecos County. The letters J.E.B. were stitched in red on the sides of his expensive black cowboy boots. He flung his 10-gallon hat onto a chair, and he roared into the room like a prairie tornado, his great paw extended to Haskell.
Tolliver's the name, J. Stewart Tolliver. Most folks call me Jeb, after Jeb Stewart. Yeah, my grandpappy served with old Jeb when he whopped you Yankees at Chancellorsville. That's how I come by the name. Didn't catch yours, friend.
Frederick Carlton Haskell.
Oh, you must be Annie Pooh's husband.
I am.
Well, I gotta congratulate you, Freddie. That's quite a little lady you have there. Quite a piece of work.
And Jeb, dear, this is our friend, Mr. Davis.
Well, glad to meet you, Mr. Tolliver.
Oh, call me Jeb, son. Folks all call me Jeb. What's your handle, Mr. Davis? Jeb?
Jerry.
Oh, with a last name like Davis, the first name's gotta be Jefferson.
I'm sorry.
Well, no matter. Time folks forgot the trouble between the states. Would do if you Yankees wasn't always bringing it up. Annie Pooh shudder.
Yes, Jeb?
I'm as dry as the Rio Grande in fly time. You got something I
What
can
do you
win
have,
with?
darling?
Say, how about just a little drinking whiskey and branch water?
Jerry?
I'll have scotch and soda.
Fred?
I don't feel like anything right now, thank you.
Well, now, let's all set a spell and get down to business. What say?
Well, I guess Annie Shuggs told you I'm fixing to marry up with her as soon as she's divorced.
She told me.
Good. Then it's all settled.
Nothing settled, Mr. Tolliver.
Oh, just call me Jeb, Freddy.
I said, Mr. Tolliver, nothing settled.
Well, now, ain't that a crying shame? Maybe you don't understand how unhappy this little lady is, Freddy. And when little old Annie Pooh is unhappy, I'm unhappy. And when I'm unhappy, I sometimes get ornery. You wouldn't want me to get ornery, now would you, Freddy?
Are you threatening me?
Well, now, you just interpret my remarks any way you like to, son.
I see no reason.
Boys, let's keep our tempers. Jeb, darling, your drink.
Oh, thank you. You didn't put too much branch water in it, did you, Mumsy Pickle?
Just as you like it, darling.
Yeah.
Jerry?
Thanks, Ann.
Sure you won't have a drink, Fred?
No, thanks. I suddenly don't feel very well.
What's the matter, Fred?
Nausea, dear. Acute nausea. I need some fresh air now.
I'll go with you, Fred.
No need. It's me that's sick.
Think you're the only one? Come on. Let's go back to the club.
Freddy, son, we ain't settled nothing yet, including your stomach.
Monstrous. There's no other word for it.
Want to walk, or should we take a cab?
Walk it off. Think it out.
Okay.
After all I've done for her, all I've given her, there can only be one explanation. She must be out of her mind, mad, stark, raving mad.
Could be.
She should be committed to an institution.
Oh, do you think that'd be going a little too far?
Why? Obviously she's taken leave of her senses.
Still, it wouldn't look too good for you. Because you'd be the one who'd have to commit her.
Yes, I see what you mean.
There is another way to handle this, of course.
What's that?
Just give her the divorce.
And make myself a laughing stock from coast to coast?
On the contrary, make her the laughing stock.
I don't follow you.
Look, Fred, if she'd fallen for a good-looking guy younger than you, if she'd lost her head to a movie actor, say, or to another newsman like Worthington Davenport.
Heaven forbid.
Exactly. Then you would be a laughing stock. But she's gone goofy over a clown, an ignoramus. That story gets around, everybody will think she's crazy. Everybody will say that she's an ingrate, unworthy of the position you've tried to give her.
Yes, I see what you mean.
You just leave it to me, pal. I'll see that the story gets around.
Jerry, old Army buddy, you're a real friend.
It's a privilege and an honor.
Let's go back and get it over with right now.
I'm with you all the way, old Army buddy.
Why, Fred, I thought that you'd done...
Got you, Freddy boy? Got your stomach settled yet? Now, you just take a glass of this drinking whiskey. She'll be settled for good.
She's settled for good, Mr. Tolliver.
Oh, shucks, Freddy. When you gonna start calling me Jeb? Folks all do.
Mr. Tolliver, I have decided to give Anne the divorce.
Oh, Fred, I could almost kiss
That
you.
won't be necessary, dear.
Now, that's the best news I heard since Yellow Rose number 3 come in the gusher. Now, you come on over here and snuggle up to Pappy, sweet me.
Please spare me the prenuptial spectacle. There are a couple of details to be gone over, and then I'll be on my way.
Where are you going?
It has occurred to me that I might effectively expand the scope of my new book by including a definitive evaluation of the Iron Curtain countries. I shall be away at least 6 weeks, during which time I assume you will be residing in Reno.
You're so thoughtful sometimes.
Naturally, under the circumstances, Anne, you wouldn't expect any alimony or property settlement.
Naturally.
Shucks, Freddy, don't you fret about money. I'm taking care of little old Annie Pooh from here on down the trail.
Well, I guess that covers everything. There's a plane out of Idlewild for Warsaw in an hour and a half. I can just make it.
But you got to pack.
I'll pick up the bag I keep at the club for emergencies. Well, goodbye, Anne.
Goodbye, Fred. And thanks.
There's nothing to thank me for. You brought this on yourself.
Now, mind, Freddy, you ever get down Waco way, you be sure to drop in on little old Sugar Pie and me.
That's very doubtful, Mr. Tolliver. My work concerns itself only with the more civilized parts of the world. You coming, Jerry?
Well, not yet, Fred. I feel badly in need of a drink.
Very well. Thanks for everything, old Army buddy. And you'll follow through, won't you?
You can count on me, pal.
I'd like to leave you with this parting thought. I have witnessed the destruction of war, the internecine strife of revolution, the fall of governments, and the miscarriage of justice in a score of countries from Tierra del Fuego to Spitsbergen. But never have I seen a more tragic and irreparable error than has been committed in this room this evening.
Well, I'll be horse-swoggled. I'll rope me for a longhorn maverick. Just what in the world did all them big words mean?
Oh, you're wonderful, Harry.
Oh, boy. Thanks, Jerry.
It was your greatest performance.
Well, how could I help it? Look at my audience.
Oh, come here, darling.
Oh, Jerry, at last.
I hate to change the subject, friends, but West of Rimrock goes on over Channel 14 in less than an hour, and the sponsor isn't going to like it if old Sheriff Saul is late.
Oh, I'm sorry, Harry. I forgot all about you.
That figures.
How much do I owe you?
Well, Actors' Equity doesn't cover this kind of a performance.
Well, how about $100?
Should be sufficiently over scale.
Here you are. I'd make it 1,000 if I could. It was worth it.
Oh, thanks a lot, Jerry. Well, I gotta be moseying along now, ma'am, but before I go, I want to wish you and your young feller as much happiness as old Paint and I have known together. And if you ever get down, wake away like that. So long, kid.
So long, Harry.
Oh, darling.
Oh, my dearest.
Darling. Is there a plane for Reno tonight?
Dozens of them. So wants to hurry. Listen again next week when we return with another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
And now, Shadow on the Wall, starring Jackie Kelk. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Soon, very soon now, there'll be a shadow on the wall. Shadows. Always shadows. I'll never get away from them. I've been watching them for days now. Or is it weeks? I don't know anymore. But I do know it started the last day of my brother's life. My brother. My dear, dear older brother. A thief. All my life he had stolen from me. Stolen my father's respect and then my mother's love. Now he was determined to steal the last hold I had on life. The house. The house where I was born and grew up out on Long Island. He was building a modern monstrosity on the estate a few hundred yards away. And when it was finished, the house, Mother's house, was to be wrecked. It was just too much.
Henry, will you stop whining? I have a great deal to do before I leave for the coast.
Roger, if I have to get on my knees and beg, I will. But please don't destroy the house.
This place is worthless. Victorian houses like this cost too much to maintain.
You think of nothing but money. What about my feelings?
Your feelings?
Yes, and Mother's, if she was still alive.
Oh, Mother would approve, I'm sure of that.
How do you know? This is the house Mother came to as a bride. The house where she bore and raised her two sons. This house was her life.
Oh, really, Henry?
It's true. How can you stand by and watch the room where she used to kiss us goodnight broken to bits by wreckers?
Sentimental nonsense.
And what about all her silver and furniture? Old and beautiful. You can't put things like that in a modern house.
We'll pack them carefully and send them to storage.
Yes, you just pack Mother away and forget her. Look here. Her favorite candlestick.
Don't wave that around. It's worth a small fortune.
And a wealth of love to me. Where will these go in your fancy new house?
All right. Put them under your pillow then, like your baby teeth. I don't care.
No, you don't, do you, Roger? You don't care one little bit.
What are you talking about?
Why should you care? You got it all. You're the executor of the estate. Yes, and you've been the executioner of my self-respect.
Nonsense. Now, as I said, I have a great deal to do before I leave tomorrow.
I hate you, Roger. I hate you.
What?
I'd like to see you dead.
Henry, stop being childish.
I'd tear your heart out if you had any.
Henry, put down that candlestick.
No, they're Mother's. And you want to pack Mother away.
I order
but
you
to...
to...
won't destroy it. You won't put Mother's memory in storage. I'll make sure Mother isn't hidden.
You give me that.
No. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I stood dazed. Roger lay on the floor, a trickle of blood oozing from his temple. I bent over him. No breath. No pulse. Roger was dead. Suddenly I heard a car coming up the drive. Mrs. Loomis, the housekeeper, was returning from the village. I dragged Roger's body to the closet, pushed him inside, and locked the door. Not a moment too soon.
Mr. Henry, I stopped by the laundry for Mr. Rogers' shirts, but they weren't ready.
Oh?
He'll be furious, I suppose, seeing he's flying to the coast in the morning.
Well, it doesn't matter, Mrs. Loomis. He's already gone.
Gone, sir?
Yes, he decided to spend the night in New York at the club and go to the airport from there.
Well, I never got a chance to say goodbye to him. Perhaps we could go to the airport together.
No, I'll see him off alone.
But I always wish Mr. Roger well before one of his trips.
I'll give him your best wishes, Mrs. Loomis. I'd rather you stayed here in the morning.
Well, very well, sir. It'll just be you for dinner, then.
Oh, don't bother tonight, Mrs. Loomis. Why don't you take the night off for a change? Go to a movie.
Why, I might at that, sir, if it's all right.
Of course.
Thank you, sir. But I do wish I could have seen Mr. Roger off.
I waited in the library until I heard Mrs. Loomis go out. I had to get rid of the body now. But where? As I gazed out across the lawn to the new house, that awful modern house, the idea came. That very day, the workmen had just finished the base of the fireplace. A broad fieldstone structure, about 3 feet high and 8 feet across. The mortar would still be wet. The stones would easily pull loose. Yeah. Why not? The perfect place. After all, Roger was so fond of the new house. It took longer than I thought, but when it was done, I returned to my room. I now had to explain Roger's disappearance. I sat up all night thinking. And then as dawn crept over the lawn, I knew what I'd do.
Announcing the arrival of PWA.
Good morning, sir. Oh, good morning. I'm on Flight 88.
Your ticket, sir.
Yes, here.
That's right. Flight 88. Any baggage?
No, just this briefcase.
All right, Mr. Harper. Everything's in order. Gate 14.
Thank you.
Desk of United Airlines.
I sat down and waited for the gate to open. I would board the plane, fly to Los Angeles, and then come right back. The airline would support the evidence that Roger Harper was on the passenger list. And when he didn't show up in Los Angeles, I'd report him missing. As I waited, I overheard a small man arguing with the desk clerk.
Isn't there any...
This was even better.
Not this late, sir. I'm sorry.
But I've got to catch that flight. Isn't there anything you can do?
Not a thing, sir. You might try Overland Airways. They have a morning flight.
Well, thank you. I'll see what I can do.
The man turned away from the desk, and I hurried after him. I beg your pardon.
Yeah?
I heard your conversation with the clerk over there, and, well, I may be able to help you.
Oh, how's that?
Well, you see, my plans have suddenly changed. I'll be happy to let you have my ticket.
You're kidding.
No, take it. Oh, I've already checked it through. Everything's in order.
Well, I don't know what to say.
That's all right. But hurry, they're announcing the flight.
Well, thank you. Here's the money. I had it already.
All right. You'd better hurry. Just go on the plane as Roger Harper. He went went through the gate and up onto the plane. The hostess smiled and checked the name on the clipboard. Roger was now confirmed on the passenger list, and I wouldn't have to explain my absence. I went to bed early that night, but I couldn't sleep. As I lay staring at the ceiling, the enormity of the thing I'd done overwhelmed me. At first, it was more a feeling than anything real. A fleeting feeling that another presence was beginning to form in the house. I got up and flooded my room with lights. I couldn't push the thought from my mind. Then, just after midnight, the doorbell rang. I peered through the crack of my bedroom door as Mrs. Loomis hurried downstairs.
Mr. Harper, a gentleman to see you.
Who is it?
He says he's from the police.
Police? What does he want?
I don't know, sir. He wants to see you.
I'll be right down. Yes?
Mr. Henry Harper?
That's right.
Detective Sergeant Allen, sir. Sorry to disturb you at this hour, but it is important.
It's all right.
I'm here about a Roger Harper, this address.
Roger?
He was on Flight 88 out of LaGuardia this morning, is that right?
Yes. Yes, he was.
You're sure about that?
Yes, of course. I saw him off myself.
I'm sorry, Mr. Harper. Flight 88 crashed in the Rockies late this afternoon. There were no survivors.
I was safe. Safe now. I walked on air the next day. The second day was peaceful bliss. Then on the third day it began again. The feeling of another presence was coming back. I mustn't leave my room. I was always safe in my room when I was a little boy. But it was no use. That's where I saw it for the first time. It was barely visible at first. Just a dim shadow on the wall across from me. And then slowly, ever so slowly, began to grow wider and wider, darker and darker, until it became a perfect silhouette. I was too terrified to move. My hands gripped the sides of the chair as I looked at the shadow. The shadow of a man hanging by his neck. Rigid at this ghastly vision. The head bowed against the chest. The hands tied behind the back. The feet together, hanging limp. It stayed there motionless. And then, slowly as it had come, it disappeared. The head blended into the body. The legs seemed to melt into the wall. And at last it was gone.
Mr. Henry, sir, I have supper ready. Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry, what is it?
Oh, Mrs. Loomis.
You gave me a fright, sir. Staring straight ahead like that.
What time is it?
Is something wrong?
Oh, no, nothing at all. What time is it?
After 6 o'clock, sir. I have supper ready. Oh. Please, sir, what's the trouble? Shall I call the doctor?
No, I'm perfectly all right.
But you don't seem to be, sir. If only...
Mrs. Loomis, will you stop?
I'm sorry.
I can't stand you babying me all the time.
Very well, sir.
And never mind dinner. I don't want it. What was it? A shadow? A vision? Something real? I was too jumpy. I was losing confidence. The next day, a look at the chimney on the new house growing higher and higher over Roger's body reassured me. Nothing out of place. Nothing suspicious. Nothing to fear. That afternoon, when I entered the library, I found Mrs. Loomis.
Oh, Mr. Henry.
What are you doing with those candlesticks?
I didn't hear you come in.
Why are you holding those candlesticks?
Why, I always polish them regularly. You know that, sir.
Oh. Yes, of course.
Did you know one of these is dented?
Dented?
Yes, look.
How did that happen?
I don't know. I'm always so
Those were my mother's favorite pieces. What did you do to them?
I didn't
Give me those.
Mr. Henry, I swear to you.
Who else could have damaged them? Are you suggesting I might have?
Please, sir. Don't look that way. Please.
I'll take them to my room. You won't touch them again. Ever. Oh, she'd been so close. Too close. But how could she suspect after the plane crash? I took the candlesticks to my room. I'd hardly closed the door behind me when gradually, very gradually, I had the feeling that something was coming into the room. I could feel it moving about. There, by the desk. No, it's near the bed. Oh, there on the wall. It hung like a ghoulish vision. The head bent, the hands tied behind the back. The shadow was as clear, if not clearer than before. Now I knew certainly that this thing on the wall, this shadow, was waiting for me. Same grotesque thing. The shadow had spread across the wall. The head bent against the chest. The terrifying hump of the back. What do you want? Is it me? Are you waiting for me? Well, you'll never get me. Never, because this house is coming down. You'll have to go away because I'm tearing down the house, do you hear? You've won. It's coming down, so go away. Go away, please. Please, go away.
Mr. Henry, sir. Mr. Henry. You're awake at last, sir.
Miss Loomis, where am I?
In the guest room, sir. You've been here for 2 days.
2 days?
We thought it better to move you in here after the shock, sir.
I don't understand. What?
You don't remember, sir. You collapsed in your room. The doctor says it's emotional stress. You've been unconscious for 2 days.
I don't remember.
It's all right now, sir. In your state of mind, it's no wonder you took on so.
What do you mean?
Why, seeing that awful shadow on the wall.
Shadow?
It gave me a turn, sir. After we moved you in here, I was cleaning up your room next afternoon, and I saw the strangest shadow on the wall like a man hanging. Oh, it was awful.
You saw it, too?
With my own eyes. But it's gone now, and we'll never see it again.
What do you mean?
Why, I showed it to Mr. Simpson.
Mr. Simpson?
You know, the contractor who's building the new house.
Oh, yes.
Well, he did some investigating. He said it was the oddest thing he ever did see.
What, Mrs. Loomis?
Well, every day when the sun gets to a certain spot behind the new house over there, the fireplace chimney casts a shadow. It's fieldstone, you know, and the rough stones cast that awful shadow right into your room.
Fireplace.
But don't worry any more about it, sir. Mr. Simpson's got the chimney almost torn down now. He's going to move the fireplace to the other side of the house and not going to charge you anything extra. That's nice of him, don't you think?
The shadows are coming again now. There, on the wall, the long, thin shadows, thin as a rail, and just 5 inches apart. Long, thin, and even. I wonder if I'll ever find a place where there aren't any shadows on the wall.
Suspense, in which Jackie Kelk starred in William N. Robeson's production of Shadow on the Wall, written by Robert Jurin. Listen again next week when we return with Vanessa Brown in Vamp Till Dead, another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense. Supporting Mr. Kelk in Shadow on the Wall were Jeanette Nolan, John White, Frank McDonald, and Charles Lung.